Alright guys, so last chapter in Pride and Prejudice absolutely destroyed everything. I mean, Lydia ran away with Wickham, guys. And we don't even know if they're married. And Mr. Bennet is heading off to London to find them. And Jane, back at home, is basically trying to hold down the whole Bennet fort all by herself. Elizabeth believes that possibly her whole entire family's reputation may be on the line. And just as she finally realizes, guys, that she might be in love with Darcy, she watches him just walk out that door, thinking that she might not ever see him again. Jane Austen, that timing was diabolical. And honestly, guys, the thing that I cannot stop thinking about is what Elizabeth said about Lydia. The mischief of neglect and the mistaken indulgence. Because suddenly, this isn't about just a teenager making a catastrophically bad decision. It's also about all the adults that have watched her behavior for years. They laughed it off, they shrugged it off, and sometimes they even encouraged it. But at the end of the day, they truly assumed that nothing terrible would ever come out of it.
Well, guys, here we are.
So now Elizabeth and the Gardiners are heading back to Longbourn. Mr. Bennet is searching London. Mrs. Bennet is apparently completely incapacitated. And somewhere out there in all of England, Lydia is with Wickham. Fantastic, guys, everything is going great. So we gotta find her. Let's dive into chapter 47 and let's see if we find her, guys. Let's go. All right, so chapter 47, what crazy chapter was last chapter, guys? I mean, come on. Lydia is gone away. This is now turned into a mystery, guys. A mystery novel by Jane Austen. Where is she at? We gotta find her immediately. Let's get down to business. Chapter 47, here we go. Now, we start off right with dialogue, which is very unusual for Miss Jane Austen. But who is saying this? We're starting it off with her uncle. So, glasses down, hair and face, let's go. So, Mr. Gardiner, right, her uncle, I'm assuming it's going to be Elizabeth, right, because they're going home. So, Mr. Gardiner says, "I have been thinking it over again, Elizabeth," said her uncle, as they drove from the town. Okay, so we're starting off with dialogue. What are we thinking about, Mr. Gardiner? Tell us. "And really, upon serious consideration, I am much more inclined than I was to judge as your eldest sister does of the matter." Okay, so we're starting off strong here. Now, it isn't as interesting that he would be seriously considering this whole serious matter. That's who Mr. Gardiner is, right? He's always going to be down and be there for the fam. But it's interesting that he said that he's much more inclined than I was to judge as your elder sister does of the matter. Does this mean that he's now going to the Jane side? Because Jane is all about that she still sees the good, and she is like, well, you know, maybe we should put what we talked about Wickham in the past, maybe it's all going to be for the good. And this, I think, he might even be siding with Jane now. Guys, this whole plan's falling apart. Not that it was a plan in the first place, but this whole idea of the Wickham story is now falling apart. Why are we going towards Wickham? But let's keep it going. So he says, "I was to judge as your eldest sister does of the matter," right? I am much more inclined. Okay. "And it appears to me so very unlikely that any young man should form such a design against a girl who is by no means unprotected of friendliness, and who is actually staying in his colonel's family, that I am strongly inclined to hope the best." Oh no, he is! Oh no, guys! So basically, upon careful consideration, he doesn't see how this could be likely that Wickham is who the guy that he is. That now it's very unlikely that a young man, aka Wickham, should just design a plan against a girl who is by no means unprotected of friendliness, aka, I mean, Lydia is just the definition of friendly. She's gonna go out there, she is unperturbed, you cannot, distress her. She is just gonna be who she is. And now Mr. Gardiner is like, well, maybe we shouldn't think that bad of Wickham, because he couldn't possibly design all of this. and who was actually staying in his colonel's family, right? Because Wickham is now apparently going against Colonel Forrester as well. And Colonel Forrester's reputation might be destroyed as well because it was under his type of watch. So because of all of that, Mr. Gardner is strongly inclining to hope for the best. But guys, you can't persuade me. I don't know. Let's keep it going. Now, he's not finished, so he's going to keep saying. He says, could he expect that her friends would not step forward? Could he expect to be noticed again by the regiment after such an affront to Colonel Forrester? Yeah, I mean, okay, he's asking the questions, right? I guess he's all about proven, innocent until proven guilty, which is, okay, I'm down for it. But as far as we know, guys, the readers, he's been proven guilty. I mean, come on. But according to Colonel Forrester, I think maybe he just doesn't have as much information as we do, the readers, right? And Elizabeth. So he's asking the questions. Could he expect that her friends would not step forward? Yeah, because, I mean, it was a huge risk to just go out in the middle of the night. I mean, it was midnight, and then they found out, 8 a.m., right? So could he expect that her friends wouldn't step forward? That was one thing. He had to be very certain of that. But the question is, who's her friends, though? The only friend that we really know is Colonel Forrester's wife, who is very friendly, not really the matriarchal, maternal person that she should have been on this whole trip. She was much more of a friend than someone to set boundaries for. But, yeah. And also he asks, could he expect to be noticed again by the regiment after such an affront with Colonel Forrester? I mean, these are questions that Wickham had to have been most certain for. And he keeps going and says, his temptation is not adequate to the risk. Yeah, I mean, he's risking a lot. Wickham is risking a lot. He could risk his position, I would think, in the military, the militia. So his temptation, as per what all the bad things, doing it for the bad reasons, according to Gardner, is just not adequate to the risk that he had to take Lydia. So Elizabeth comes back and says, well, do you really think so? Cried Elizabeth, brightening up for a moment. Elizabeth, why are we brightening up, girl? I don't like this. Maybe brightening up for a moment, though. She might be getting hopes, because I think, we know that she really respects Mr. and Mrs. Gardner's opinion. So if Mr. Gardner's coming in and basically saying, he's risking a lot, I don't think it's for the bad reasons. Let's give him the benefit of a doubt. Elizabeth, for a second there, for a moment, brightened up. So maybe she was like, you really think so? It could be possible, but I don't know. You still can't convince me, but let's keep it going. Now, Mrs. Gardner steps in and says, upon my word, said Mrs. Gardner, I begin to be of your uncle's opinion. Oh, no. Okay. All right. So, oh boy, what is it now, guys? 3 against 1? Jane, Mrs. Gardner, Mr. Gardner against Elizabeth. And Darcy did he really give an opinion? I mean, he was shocked. He was astonished by what the words were. I would think he would be on Elizabeth's side. So maybe it's 3 against 2. But Mrs. Gardner now is coming in, agreeing with Jane and with Mr. Gardner that he really had a lot to risk. And, I mean, kind of looking back at it, guys, Wickham did have a lot to risk. But we've seen the risk before that he's been taken. He's going to London, trying to be an attorney. He's trying to swindle basically all the money that he can get from Darcy. And from what I learned from you guys, he might have had even more debts that Darcy was paying to the townspeople. So this he's a risk taker by default. And, does he feel the shame and the lack of empathy? Yeah, no. I mean, he is not empathetic at all. He feels no shame. He's just going to do whatever he's going to do. But, let's continue. So Mrs. Gardner continues and says, it is really too great a violation of decency, honor, and interest for him to be guilty of it. Yeah, I mean, you know, a great risk, and also it's going to just completely detonate his whole reputation that everybody in Meryton knew and in the regiment as well. So it's just too great of a violation to his honor and his decency to be guilty of doing this crazy thing that he's maybe doing it for the good. I cannot think so very ill of Wickham. Can you yourself, Lizzie, so wholly give him up as to believe him capable of it? Oh, no, you're putting our girl Lizzie in a really bad spot, guys. She might turn now, because now she sees that two people are against Wickham. For Wickham, basically, that he's not as bad as he seems. And Lizzie, I mean, she takes her aunt and uncle's advice to heart. She might turn. Do we think that's a good idea? I don't think so, but I mean, she might. Let's see. Now she says, not perhaps of neglecting his own interest. Ooh, so she's okay. So do you agree, Lizzie? Do you agree, yes or no? No, I don't, on neglecting his own interest, meaning that basically Wickham only cares for himself, and that's basically the personality traits that we've been seeing of him, right? So, yeah, he feels no shame for anybody else. He's just going to be out there doing what he needs to do for his own self-interest. And that was one of the things. Yeah, the three things were decency, honor, and interest. So, no, not perhaps of neglecting his own interest, but of every other neglect I can believe him capable, which was decency and honor. That basically they say it's really too great a violation of decency, but she knows that he's indecent. He would take Lydia and potentially ruin his reputation and his honor as well, ruin his honor because of the whole regiment. So Elizabeth is basically saying, no, I go with you guys on the interest part, but every other part, I can believe that he's capable. If indeed it should be so. Yeah, I mean, innocent until proven guilty, right? We still want Lydia home, guys. That's number one. But I dare not hope it. Why should they not go on to Scotland if that had been the case? Lizzie's coming in with the facts. Now, from what I learned from you guys, Scotland was just a very close way to go across the border to not have the strict rules that England has for marrying. And Scotland, if you wanted to elope and without parent consent and all that stuff, you would just go across the border to Scotland and you would have a much easier time of elopement. So thank you for letting me know that, guys. Now, she has a good point. Why should they not go on to Scotland if that had been the case? If he wasn't all about decency and honor, right? If he didn't care he doesn't care about decency and honor. But if he cared about decency and he cared about honor, he would go to Scotland and marry Lydia. Because now you're running off with, 15, 16-year-old teenager, a girl, basically, and not marrying her. That's going to completely detonate, Lydia, her whole entire family. And he basically does not care about anybody else other than himself, his own self-interest. So what does he care that they're not going to Scotland? If he was truly decent and he was honorable, he would have traveled across to Scotland to marry her, and then it'd be all good because they signed the paperwork. But, he's not doing it. He changed courts. They changed even horses and shays and all that stuff. They're on a high-speed chase now, carriage-wise edition. And they're in London somewhere. So she's got a good point, but let's keep it going. Okay, so Mr. Gardner's coming back and he's saying, well, in the first place, replied Mr. Gardner, there is no absolute proof that they are not gone to Scotland. Okay, I mean, once again, we're getting a lesson here. Innocent until proven guilty. Which, once again, guys, I'm all about, right? We gotta get the facts straight. He's saying that there is no absolute proof. Honestly, guys, the only thing that we got are 2 letters. That's it. We got 2 letters. Is that enough to prove beyond a reasonable doubt? 2 letters in the courtroom. You ain't gonna get a guilty verdict off of that. The only thing is that we know more information. But as far as the absolute proof goes, from Mr. Gardner's side, we just have the 2 letters. It's all hearsay at this point, right? They changed courses. Do we really know that? Well, the only thing that we really know is that they've been talking with the turnpikes guys, the people at the tolls. They've been going to London, but they just haven't seen her. So maybe they haven't seen them because they went to Scotland. But it just doesn't seem like it's in his character. So I do like this kind of back and forth type of idea. But once again, guys, we just got to get her home. So, he's saying, well, in the first place, there's no absolute proof that they haven't gone to Scotland. So then Elizabeth comes back and says, oh, but their removing from the chaise into a hackney coach is such a presumption? Okay, so is that enough proof? Is that enough proof? Yes, they did go from the chaise to a hackney coach. The question is why? There could be many reasons, right? Maybe they just needed to change. I don't know. Whose hackney coach? Did they just pick it up from the side of the road? Is this maybe a rental, right? I don't know. But maybe the horses were tired. You don't know, right? There's still some doubt. And I'm trying to play both sides here, guys. But my heart is saying that Wickham is just a bad dude. Jane Austen's been setting us up for that. But I also know that Jane Austen will set us up to just drop us on the Tower of Terror. Okay? So, yeah. So she's coming in with some proof. But once again, it's from a letter. Can we say that the letter is true? That's the whole thing here. You can kind of derive it back. So we only know of that information from Jane's letter. I don't know, but let's keep going. Besides, no traces of them were to be found on the Barnet Road. I'm assuming that the Barnet Road is the road to get to just the overpoint of Scotland. So no traces were them on the Barnet Road, right? The traces were that they went to London and then all of a sudden they lost them. So if there's no traces, if there's no maybe horse tracks or anything like that, they couldn't have gone farther. I don't know. Maybe it rained. Maybe it rained and the hoof, that kind of just got soddened by the rain. I don't know. You don't know. But she's trying to bring in some proof. Well, let's see what happens. So now Mr. Gardner comes back and says, well, then, supposing them to be in London. Okay, we'll go down that road. We'll go down. We'll suppose that they're in London. They may be there, though for the purpose of concealment, for no more exceptionable purpose. So once again, he's maybe kind of playing a little bit of devil's advocate, where let's suppose that they're in London. Let's suppose that they didn't make it to Scotland. They might just be hiding. They might just be in the purpose of concealment for no more exceptionable purpose, aka no more exceptional purpose of that he's just chilling with Lydia in no hopes of marriage. They might just be chilling for a little while. They might just be hiding out. Now, why would they be hiding out? There's got to be a reason. But there's no reason as per what Mr. Gardner is saying, that there's no more exceptionable purpose that they would be hiding. They're just maybe chilling for a little bit. I don't know, maybe they're talking about their future, getting things together, money-wise, financial purposes, the regiment, everything. They're just chilling for a little bit. And then he keeps going. It is not likely that money... yeah. It is not likely that money should be very abundant on either side. Yes, because Mr. Gardner knows of the entail, so he knows how much Lydia's coming with, basically 0. And we know that, Wickham isn't part of the landed gentry. He's just trying to get money here and there, and that's why he's part of the militia. So as far as the 2 of them, they don't really got that much going on. And it might strike them that they could be more economically, though less expeditiously, married in London than in Scotland. Okay, so he's saying, well, if they're still wanting to get married, they might just be chilling right now in London, just trying to get their wits together and just to try to see how we're going to do this because we don't got any money at the moment, not too much. So they might just be hiding, figuring out a plan. It is much more economically, economically what? Kiki, think of the word. Come on here. Much more economically suitable. There we go. Suitable to get married in London than to Scotland, because then you got much more travel time, much more travel distance to try to go to Scotland, which means much more money. So instead, because Lydia's out, maybe we are going to get married in London, which means that the parents, I think, will got to get involved from what I learned from you guys. So, yeah. So more economically suitable, though less expeditiously, aka quickly, to get married in London, because there's much more laws in England for marriage than in Scotland at the time. Okay, he laid it out on the table. Let's see. Elizabeth's going to come back and says, but why all this secrecy? Yeah, I mean, she's got a point. And even me, I'm trying to come up with things. Why would they be in hiding if that's the case? It just doesn't make any sense that they would be chilling out. Why wouldn't they just go to Longbourn and say, hey, surprise, we get married? Why any fear of detection? Yeah? Why must their marriage be private? I mean, she's asking good questions. Oh, no, this is not likely. She's shutting it down. She's saying, too many questions means it's probably not happening like that. So this is not very likely. His most particular friend, you see, by Jane's account. So the most particular friend, which is Denny, I'm assuming, right? And Denny was the one that told Colonel Forrester that he was not had the intention to marry Lydia. So let's see. His most particular friend, you see by Jane's account, the letters, was persuaded of his never intending to marry her. Okay, Lizzie's coming in with now the facts from the letter. So he said with the most particular friend, aka Denny, that there was no intention of marrying. Okay, is that absolute proof? We don't know. That's still he say, she say, whatever say, right? So Wickham will never marry a woman without some money. And I believe it, guys. We've seen it, and we know what went down with Georgiana. A lot of people don't know that, but, we know that. So, and we've seen time and time again, £1,000, £3,000, racking up debts from all over the place. So yeah, Wickham will never marry a woman without some money. Even the Miss King thing for a hot second, guys. The whole thing. She was going to get some money from her grandpa, and then, the Wickham just swooped right in. Whoop. He cannot afford it. And what claims has Lydia? What attractions has she beyond youth, health, and good humor? I mean, even though it's her sister, she is asking the right questions. What does Lydia have? She's got no money, no governess that she was raised with, so not really the best decorum or the best etiquette. She's, she doesn't have the best manners per se. So, yeah, what does she have beyond youth, beyond her health, beyond good humor? She's very easy to talk to. She can mingle with the dudes. So, she's not afraid to talk to them, not afraid to go up to them. But what else other than that? That could make him, for her sake, forgo every chance of benefiting himself by marrying well. Yeah, I mean, what does she have? She's got to have something. That's the question. She's got to have something that he can basically just say to himself, you know what, I'm fine with no money. I'm fine with it. That, forego every chance of benefiting himself by marrying well. Because he needs to marry well, right? And Lydia ain't the one. So what attractions does she have in which Wickham can basically say, you know what, I know I gotta marry well, but I'd much rather be poor because Lydia got it going on. I don't know. But Elizabeth's gonna keep going with it. So here we go. As to what restraint the apprehensions of disgrace in the corpse might throw on a dishonorable elopement with her. Now, once again, she's bringing up some interesting things. I think this goes back to the, dishonorable elopement. So remember, it was the decency, interest, and honor. So Elizabeth's coming back and saying, as to what restraints the apprehensions of disgrace, the fear of being disgraced, publicly disgraced in the militia, in the corpse, might throw on a dishonorable elopement. And she says, I am not able to judge on that. So it seems like she doesn't know what type of fear that of disgrace in the corpse might throw because he is not doing the right thing and making an elopement dishonorably with Lydia. So she doesn't know, maybe Wickham could be fearful of that. But she says she's not able to judge. For I know nothing of the effects that such a step might produce. Yeah, because she's not in the militia. So she can't really speak on that. And I could kind of see that. I can kind of get behind that. And then she goes, but as to your other objection. So the other objection. So there was decency, honor, and interest. Let's see. But as to your other objection, I am afraid it will hardly hold good. Lydia has no brothers to step forward. And he might imagine from my father's behavior, from his indolence and the little attention he has ever seemed to give to what was going forward in his family. Elizabeth is throwing the smackdown. I can't even finish this sentence, but she is throwing the smackdown on her father. And what's the relation here? It is Mr. Gardner is the brother of Mrs. Bennet. So there's no blood relation between Mr. Gardner, Mrs. Gardner to Mr. Bennet. But I understand from you guys that, you marry into the family, they are now basically considered blood. So fam is fam. But, she's giving it. She's throwing it in. She's lighting her own father up, guys. So, Lydia has no brothers to step forward. And he might imagine from my father's behavior, from his indolence and the little attention he has ever seemed to give to what was going forward in his family. And I love that she takes her step back, it seems, right forward in his family, not my family, not our family. Seems like she's trying to distance herself from there, just kind of something that I picked up. But yeah, he's been indolent, right? He's been lazy. He never invested in any of the 5 daughters' futures. He never hired a governess. He never, from everything that Lydia has done, he's just laughed at her or, was witty. He was sarcastic about all of Lydia's behaviors, but he never tried to correct it, guys. And even from the beginning, right? Even from the beginning of the book, where Lydia was going off, right? And Mr. Bennet basically said, they're 2 of the silliest girls ever, Kitty and Lydia. And Mrs. Bennet would come and say, how could you talk so about your own kids? How could you talk so of your own daughters? And he's like, oh, well, if they're the silliest, I wish that I was sensible enough to know it, which I think was, I'm paraphrasing there, but I think he said, I'm sensible of knowing it. But dude, go forward. Go the extra distance. You know that they're silly, but yet you didn't correct it? Come on. Mind blown. But dude, so we've even seen it in the beginning. But let's continue on. So, my father's behavior, from his indolence and the little attention he has ever given, he ever seemed to give to what was going forward in his family, that he would do as little and think as little about it as any father could do in such a manner. Guys, she has a point, because Wickham knew the family, and he might have clocked it in, guys, that Mr. Bennet is just a lazy, indolent type of guy who doesn't really interfere with the family things, right? Or the family dwellings or, whatever's going on in daily life. So Lydia was very easy to just kind of swoop in and take. And that's what Elizabeth is basically saying here, that, Mr. Bennet, her father, would do as little and think as little about it as any father could do in such a manner. Yeah, I mean, Mr. Bennet wasn't going to step in beforehand, but now, as we know, that he's going to London now. Finally, guys, he's actually doing something to try to get Lydia back. But I think this whole thing is talking about, because it did say, but as your other objection, I think this one was the honor part. And because I think Mr. Gardner said, wouldn't Wickham be scared that, her friends would come in? But, Lydia has no brothers to step forward. Now, probably something in the Regency era is, the male heir has a lot of responsibilities, I would think. But Lydia has no brothers. So Austen put this in for this specific reason, guys. That Lydia doesn't have any brothers. The estate isn't going to go. Longbourn isn't going to go to this male heir, one of the brothers, because obviously there is no brother. It's going to Mr. Collins that we know of. So there's no brother to kind of step forward and take responsibility of the family. And because of that, you got Mr. Bennet, who's just in his library the whole time. And, until it's too late. Now he gets up and he goes to London. Okay, but let's see. Elizabeth is done. Let's see if Mr. Gardner comes around and says anything. Yes, he does. He says, but can you think that Lydia is so lost to everything but love of him as to consent to live with him on any other terms than marriage? So, Mr. Gardner still is trying to give Lydia credit, but can you think that Lydia is so lost to everything? I guess all of the etiquette and the morals of, being with someone while not being married to them. Is she that lost of everything but love of him as to consent to live with him on any other terms than marriage? I mean, guys, I don't want to think about this, but what is she consenting to, right? If we're living with some older dude, I don't know what's going on. I don't want to think about it. But I think that that's gonna completely demolish her reputation if she's not married and the word spreads out. Guys, But, Mr. Gardner is being an uncle and he's giving Lydia maybe a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. Can you think that Lydia is so lost? We only know, guys, that she loves the BBC. All right? She loves the BBC. Boys, balls, and clothing, guys. Or, if you don't want to do the BBC and you want to do B cubed or BBB, we could do boys, balls, and bonnets. You choose. Whichever is your fancy. But, yeah, I don't think. I mean, we've seen Lydia's character. She is very insensible. She's not wise. She's imprudent. She's, she is the life of the party. She is good-humored. She can talk to anybody. But she's also, her mind is vacant, guys. Nothing's really going on there except for gossip. She doesn't have the right training. And once again, that's, the failings of the parents. This is a parent problem, guys, but let's see what Elizabeth says. It does seem, and it is most shocking indeed, replied Elizabeth, with tears in her eyes. Guys. Now, let's just see. Mr. Gardner said, but can you think that Lydia is so lost as to consent to live with him other than marriage? And basically Elizabeth says, yes, I think she could be. It does seem, and it is most shocking indeed. It's her sister. She loves Lydia. This has taken, really hard turn. And, she's obviously crying for her sister. But Elizabeth also knows that her reputation is ruined. And I think through these tears, she's thinking of Darcy, guys. And I think she's thinking of her own reputation. Because remember, they left it that Elizabeth is potentially thinking that Darcy, this is the last straw. Like, this is the last straw. Your family's crazy. He closed the door, and she might not even think that they might see each other again. But then we got insight as to Darcy's side, and he was just trying to be there for her. So I think because we know that, I think that's where the tears are coming. Kiki, hold it down. Yeah. Because it's like twofold. You know, you really care about your sister, you really want her back, but, you know, at the same time, you finally realize that somebody that you really love could possibly go poof. I don't know. It's kind of hard, but let's keep it going. Now, it does seem, and it is most shocking indeed, that a sister's sense of decency and virtue in such a point could admit of doubt. So I think she's coming here and talking about, yeah, you know, my sister, she is decent, she has virtue, but she's not perfect. And there could be a time where those senses, those morals, might become doubtful. So she's not basically saying that her sister's evil or she's running off because she wants to, completely annihilate the family's reputation. She's just saying that, sometimes there might be times of doubt. And she's because she's only 15, 16, guys, but let's keep it going. But really, I know not what to say. Lizzie, by you keep on talking, you know exactly what to say. Come on. And we know Lizzie as our talkative queen, right? She's always got an opinion, and she will let you know about it, guys. So now she doesn't really know what to say? I think she does, but let's keep it going. Now, perhaps I am not doing her justice, but she is very young. Check. I agree. She has never been taught to think on serious subjects. Check. Kiki agrees. Kiki agreed, guys. So yeah, she's never been taught. She doesn't have a governess. The parents failed in the investment of their future. For their education, serious subjects, that would have been the governess's part, to come in and teach them. And for the last half year, nay, for a 12th month, she has been given up to nothing but amusement and vanity. Yeah, and we've seen that, right? What's her days like, guys? I mean, it was even said in the beginning of the novel that her amusement is literally going to Meryton, going to the Phillipses, 2 or 3 times a week to chill with the Phillipses and talk about the gossip of what's going on with Meryton. And, last half year, and then she kind of thinks back, basically a year, 12 months, that she's just been nothing but amusement and vanity. She's been going to balls, she's been going to assembly, she's been going to the Netherfield ball. And she is very, very vain. She has her own pride that she wants to kind of just make everybody see her. She just wants to be the life of the party, and she just wants to have all eyes on her, the attention on her. And once again, the parents did it wrong, but let's keep it going. She has been allowed to dispose of her time in the most idle and frivolous manner. Yeah, once again, no serious subjects, no governess to come in and teach her subjects that she had to have learned at that time period. And what has she been doing? Just like we said, she's been going to Meryton. She's been buying bonnets over food, guys. She cannot make these hard decisions. And it's because of the parents. Just saying, I don't know. But, she has been allowed to dispose of her time in the most idle and frivolous manner, and to adopt any opinions that come in her way. So once again, she's, Elizabeth is kind of going and saying she is very simple-minded, Lydia is, that she adopts any opinions that come in her way. And the main 2 people that I can kind of see this is obviously Mrs. Bennet, because if Mrs. Bennet, her own mother, is like, the object is to get married, what is Lydia going to think? She's going to say, I need to get married. And the other person is, I would think, is, her aunt, Mrs. Phillips, where Mrs. Phillips is all about the gossip as well. I mean, she's cut from the same cloth as her own mother. So she's always talking about men. I'll bring over the men. We're going to a ball. And what is Lydia going to think? I love balls. I love them. So she adopts any opinions that come her way, which is another way I think of saying, like, she can't think for herself. Like, she's just going to do whatever is being said at the time. If balls are cool, Lydia's going to think balls are cool. So let's keep it going. Now, since the some type of Shire were first quoted in Meryton, nothing but love, flirtation, and officers had been in her head. Yeah, this is going back to her very simple mind. She's very idle. She has no studies, so she occupies her mind with these trifling things. Love, flirtation, and officers. What were we saying, guys? She was going to Meryton at least 2 to 3 times a week to just chill with the officers. Remember Captain Carter, Colonel Carter? Right? That was her number one love in the beginning. So yeah, love, flirtation, the officers has just been in her head. She has been doing everything in her power by thinking and talking on the subject to give greater, what shall I call it, susceptibility to her feelings, which are naturally lively enough. Yeah, I mean, so basically Elizabeth is saying that, everything in her power by thinking and talking on the subject to make her more susceptible to her feelings. So basically it's kind of like, the more that you talk about something, the more that you can convince that that thing is maybe either true or you really like that thing or you gotta have it. We've all been there, guys. So, I mean, she's been thinking of the Meryton men, the militia men, all day, every day. Because she doesn't have anything really else to do in life. So she's just going to be thinking, talking of the subject. And because she's thinking and she's talking of the subject about all these great militia men, they're great. They're even greater than great. They're great, right? And I love how Elizabeth at the end is like, which are naturally lively enough. Yeah, because, Lydia is just happy-go-lucky. She's going to take it to a 20 anyway. Everybody's, at one degree or another. Lydia is like in outer space as far as loving something, taking it to that extreme. And that's what is being said here. But then, all in all, Elizabeth says, and we all know that Wickham has every charm of person and address that can captivate a woman. Yeah, we all know. Because who did he captivate, guys? Elizabeth herself. So she's going to add that in there. We all know that he can charm a person because I was fooled. Elizabeth was fooled to him. So we all know that Wickham can do this. So she's not lying there, but let's continue on. Now, Mrs. Gardiner comes in and says, "But you see that Jane," said her aunt, "does not think so ill of Wickham as to believe him capable of the attempt." So, once off the bat, I didn't like that "but" at the beginning, because Elizabeth gave it was a great lineup for what she thought of Lydia. And for what we know, I mean, she got it spot on. But Mrs. Gardiner comes in with the "but." And, but you see Jane, your older sister, doesn't think so ill of Wickham as to believe him capable of doing this heinous, malicious, indecent, dishonorable type of attempt. But Jane isn't Elizabeth, right? Jane doesn't have prejudice basically to a fault. She's just going to believe whatever anybody says, minus Carolyn, right? Because she had a hard time. She had a long time to think that Carolyn might not be as friendly or might not be as, affable as she was trying to put herself out to be. But as far as everybody else, Jane always will try to see the best in everybody. That's just who she is. But let's see what Elizabeth comes back at, right? And that's what Mrs. Gardiner says, Jane doesn't see ill of Wickham, right? She doesn't think that he could attempt that. But Elizabeth comes in and says, "Of whom does Jane ever think ill?" I mean, mic drop. If you don't know your niece, Jane Bennet, by now, come on. Who does she ever think ill? Maybe Carolyn Bingley. That's the only person. I don't even think she thinks Charles Bingley as being ill. She still thinks that he's the most affectionate man in her whole entire life. So she's got a point. Lizzie does. And who is there? Whatever might be their former conduct, that she would believe capable of such an attempt till it were proved against them. So, I mean, basically Elizabeth is coming in and talking about Jane needs proof, kind of like just how Mr. Gardner was like, where's the absolute proof? But Jane also needs proof, right? That, and who is there, whatever might be their former conduct, that she would believe capable of such an attempt till it was proved against them. Yeah, so, it's Jane needs to be, Jane, basically this is the Carolyn situation. She might be talking about her whole journey with Carolyn, where she needed the actual proof to see that Carolyn was just not who she said she was. And it took a long time. And maybe at this case, Elizabeth is also thinking about maybe her own shortcomings, because this whole thing where she was captivated by Wickham, that was a close, not a close, but like a quick liking to Wickham. And it took her a while. The whole Darcy Wickham type of with the letter and all that, it took her a while to fully accept that Wickham is not who he is. So she, Jane and Elizabeth are very similar in that way. But let's keep it going about who Jane is. But Jane knows, as well as I do, what Wickham really is. Yeah, because I told her in the letter. We both know that he has been profligate in every sense of the word, that he has neither integrity nor honor, that he is as false and deceitful as he is insinuating. Ooh, Lizzie's coming out hot for all the dudes right now, minus Darcy. She's lighting fire under Mr. Bennet, her own father, and now she's lighting it up for Wickham, guys. Whew. So, I mean, he is wicked, wretched, malicious, profligate. He has no integrity, no honor. And, these are really, really, really harsh words that I would assume that if someone's coming out with these words, guys, you kind of, put your act together and you're like, oh, shoot, they might know more than I do. And that maybe is what the Gardners are going to think now, that, Elizabeth probably knows stuff that we don't know about this guy. Because why would you come out with such hateful words? I mean, even in the beginning, guys, when Elizabeth, with the whole tolerable comment, I mean, she did not have these words for Darcy. I wouldn't say profligate or, neither integrity nor honor. I mean, these are really, really, really bad words. Deceitful. Yeah. But she's finished here, and let's see. Mrs. Gardner comes back. Let's see. What is she going to say? And do you really know all this? Yeah, there it is. I mean, if you're coming out so hot with that, Mr. and Mrs. Gardner got to be thinking, like, there's stuff that we probably don't even know. So do you really know all of this? Because they'll accept their niece, So, do you really know all this? Cried Mrs. Gardner, whose curiosity as to the mode of her intelligence was all alive. Yeah, she wants to know. Because remember, guys, she didn't tell the Gardners of the letter or anything, I believe. So let's see. Elizabeth comes back and says, I do indeed. And you should trust your niece, right? If you know Elizabeth's character, you should trust her on this. Let's see. I do indeed, replied Elizabeth, coloring. So she's getting hot. I mean, she's throwing out accusations here and there, so she's getting red. She's coloring it up. Let's see. And she's been crying, guys. So there was tears in her eyes. So she's getting very, very, she's agitated, I could say. So agitated, she's turning red. She was sobbing. Her eyes are probably puffy. But let's see. I told you the other day of his infamous behavior to Mr. Darcy. And you, yourself, when last at Longbourn, heard in what manner he spoke of the man who had behaved with such forbearance and liberality towards him. Yeah, I mean, she is going to go to the end for Darcy. She's sticking up for him. Now, I believe, obviously the Gardners don't know the proposal, because that would completely send them over. But I remember that Elizabeth did tell the Gardners about the financial problems that Wickham had, but she did not say the source of how she knew the information. So now that's what it's coming in. I do know this indeed. I told you the other day of that infamous behavior, how Wickham is just racking up debts and Darcy's paying. And you yourself, when last at Longbourn, right, because they visited Longbourn, heard in what manner he spoke of the man who had behaved with such forbearance and liberality towards him. So, with such patience and kindness towards him, right? Because he paid the debts. He paid all the debts off to the townspeople. And it just, Meanwhile, Wickham is doing whatever he's going to be doing. So she's coming in and she will defend Darcy. And that's what she's doing here. So she's made a complete turnaround, guys. And it seems like she is not afraid now to state that she's on Team Darcy now. So she's not stopping here either. So let's keep it going. What else does she say? And there are other circumstances which I am not at liberty to say, right? There's other circumstances which she's not going to say, she's not going to disclose, which it is not worthwhile to relate. Yeah. So there are other things I could tell you, aka probably the Georgiana thing, if I had to guess. There's other circumstances which I'm not at the liberty. I know information, but I can't disclose them. But just please trust me on this, basically. But his lies about the whole Pemberley family are endless. Yeah. Yeah. So, Team Darcy, not Team Wickham, guys. Elizabeth is purely Team Darcy. And from what he said of Miss Darcy, I was thoroughly prepared to see a proud, reserved, disagreeable girl. Which, Wickham was the one that said that Georgiana was, the proudest, just like her brother. And that's what she was coming in with, right? Because we haven't seen Georgiana really. We've only heard about her. But now we've actually seen her, and she is not the proudest, disagreeable girl. She is just embarrassed, right? So, and because of that, she comes off as shy, not proud. But I see it. Let's keep it going. Yet he knew to the contrary himself, aka he's been saying all this other stuff, but he knew that she's not that. He must know that she wasn't amiable and unpretending as we have found her. Yeah. So she's not going to say the specific circumstances. She's not at the liberty to. But, what I'm just going to say is that he knew of Georgiana. He's saying that she's proud, reserved, disagreeable, but he knew that she was amiable and her real personality. Now, Mrs. Gardner comes back and says, "But does Lydia know nothing of this? Can she be ignorant of what you and Jane seem so well to understand?" Yeah, does Lydia know any of this? Do you talk to Lydia? And the answer is unfortunately no, I don't talk to Lydia. So, because once again, it's kind of like, who is supposed to guide Lydia? Is it the oldest daughter's responsibility to make sure that Lydia gets the best, or is it the parents' responsibility? Just putting that out there. But Mrs. Gardner comes in with an important question. Does Lydia not know all of this, right? Because if she did, then she would definitely not be with Wickham at the moment. Can she be so ignorant of what you and Jane see so well to understand? Let's see. So, Elizabeth comes in and says, "Oh, yes. Well, that is the worst of all. Till I was in Kent, and saw so much of Mr. Darcy and his relation, Colonel Fitzwilliam, I was ignorant of the truth myself." Yes, because that is the truth. So that's the worst of it, until I was in Kent visiting the Collinses with Lady Catherine de Bourgh, and they came. First off, once again, I ain't telling you, you're not supposed to know how I know this stuff, but up until then, I was ignorant of the truth myself. I didn't want to believe it. And then, when I returned home to, the Shire, was to leave Meryton in a week or fortnight time. Right, so when she returned home, that militia that was in Meryton with Wickham was going to leave in a week or 2 weeks, right? They were going to go to Brighton. As that was the case, neither Jane, to whom I related the whole, from the letter, right, the Wickham aspect of the letter, she told Jane everything, nor I thought it necessary to make our knowledge public. I mean, yeah, give or take, it's a week, 2 weeks. Who would have thought that this would have happened in a week, 2 weeks' time? And plus, Elizabeth had a lot going on because she was in her own thoughts. So she was just trying to make it out, guys, for her own sake, about the proposal and everything, that it probably might not have even passed her mind to let it open, right? So she thought it wasn't necessary to make it public. For of what use could it apparently be to anyone? Now we know, apparently, it would have been of great use. That the good opinion which all the neighborhood had of him should then be overthrown? Yeah. So, from her aspect, she's like, what good use could have done it? Because honestly, who would have thought that this would have happened? Right? Yeah. For of what use could it apparently be to anyone that the good opinion should then be overthrown, that they would now think differently of Wickham. But, yeah, but that's the story. She's telling the truth as to for what it was. So at the end of the day, they thought it wasn't necessary, and they didn't want it to get out, because I remember that basically they were going to be gone in a week, 2 weeks' time, and that would have been the end. Because remember, there's no phone, no computer, no text, no whatever. So they're just going to move to another town, and goodbye militiamen. And that's what Elizabeth was basically saying. But now we know that Lydia went to the next place. She went to Brighton. And that's where everything started happening. Well, let's keep it going, because Lizzie's not done. And even when it was settled that Lydia should go with Mrs. Forrester to Brighton, the necessity of opening her eyes to his character never occurred to me. But, I kind of would have to be like, Elizabeth, you kind of went to your dad. That was the whole plea there. She didn't go to Lydia specifically. She went to her father. And her father, once again, guys, what'd he say? She gonna learn today. That's what he said. Let her be known, okay? Because then she'll correct her own mistakes. And then this apparently happened, guys, okay? So, yeah. So, and even when it was settled that she was going to go with Mrs. Forrester, there was no necessity in Elizabeth's eyes to make it known that Wickham was a terrible guy. It never occurred to her. That she could be in any danger from the deception never entered my head. Is she telling the truth here, guys? She did go to her dad and basically say, I don't think Lydia should go to Brighton. But it was more so just talking about Lydia's character and how basically she's going to ruin her own reputation because she's going to be acting wild. And that's when Mr. Bennet was like, let her do her own thing because she'll correct herself by herself. She don't need no help. I don't think that it came back and was like, the whole family's reputation is going to be ruined. Well, the whole family's reputation is going to be ruined. And one more thing that Lizzie says, she says, that such a consequence as this should ensue, you may easily believe was far enough from my thoughts. Yeah, I mean, the person that it could have been, Wickham, any other person, guys, just not this dude. Because once again, we still don't really know his true motives as to why Lydia. Because she's got no money. Wickham's out for money. I don't know. But Mrs. Gardner comes back and says, when they all removed to Brighton, therefore you had no reason to to believe them fond of each other? So Mrs. Gardner clearly is coming out and saying, when they all removed to Brighton, aka I guess the militia, when they all moved to Brighton from Meryton, did you have any reason to suppose that Lydia and Wickham were fond of each other. Now, from what I can think, I don't remember reading anything really of Lydia plus Wickham. The only thing is when they went to Meryton and they were talking with Wickham. Remember, the Phillipses came over, or not the Phillipses came over, but the Phillipses wanted Wickham to come over their house one time, but Wickham was talking to Elizabeth, and that's when Elizabeth was like swooning over Wickham. And he wasn't even at the Meryton ball. Not the Meryton ball, but the Netherfield ball. He wasn't there, so that can't possibly be it. And what else? Elizabeth has been in Kent most of the time. So she was with the Gardiners, then she went to Kent. So the only thing that I could say is, like, from Elizabeth's perspective, she does not know anything that went down from when she was in Kent. We have no idea. It could have very possibly well be, guys, that when Elizabeth was away, Lydia and Wickham were a-playing. So it could be during that timeline when she was away. Now, do we know that there was letters from Jane? Probably there was letters from Jane, but I don't think Lydia was really maybe messaging her, Elizabeth, or writing letters to Elizabeth. But she might just not have known it, guys. That could have been the thing. But let's see. And Elizabeth's going to double down and say, not the slightest. I can remember no symptom of affection on either side. Yeah, just as I've been going through it, I can't come up with anything either. Only that it happened when she was away. And had anything of the kind been perceptible, you must be aware that ours is not a family on which it could be thrown away. Lizzie, savage, come on. And had anything of the kind been perceptible, you must be aware that our family won't throw away affection like that. Do you know who my mother is? Where any type of affection, Mrs. Bennet's just going to latch onto it and be like, ding, my daughter's for you. Congratulations, you now have officially obtained my daughter. That's Mrs. Bennet. And I think that's what Lizzie is saying here. You must be aware that our family is not the family on which affection would be thrown away. No. And probably Mrs. Gardiner is chuckling at that, but let's keep it going. Now, when first he entered the corpse, she was ready enough to admire him. Check. And she even doubles down and says, but so we all were. Check. That I'm getting. That is the truth. That is for sure. Every girl in or near Meryton was out of her senses about him for the first 2 months. Check. We know that he made a great impression in Meryton. But he never distinguished her by any particular attention. And from what I know, as far as from the book, from what we're up to now, I don't think that anything happened where he was giving Lydia any attention. And, consequentially, after a moderate period of extravagant and wild admiration, her fancy for him gave way, and others of the regiment, who treated her with more distinction, again became her favorites. Yeah, because Lydia will go where the attraction is. So it seems like that because he never distinguished her and put her out and said Lydia is the one, consequentially, after a moderate amount of period of wild admiration, probably from Lydia to Wickham's part, her fancy gave way. She didn't care about him anymore because he didn't care about her, as per what was being seen. And she then turned her path to more ensigns or just people in the militia, like Colonel Carter, right? And all the other militia men. So this is all trekking. It's all tracking out. Let's keep it going. Now, it may be easily believed that however little of novelty could be added to their fears, hopes, and conjectures on this interesting topic by its repeated discussion, no other could detain them from its long during the whole of the journey. So yeah, I mean, keep in mind that they're still traveling home, so, it's a long way back to Longbourn. And what else are you going to talk about? Lydia is the utmost importance right now, guys. But also, once you kind of talk about it from start to finish, what else can you talk about that, there's nothing new, nothing of little novelty could be added to their fears that they already talked about. Maybe the hopes of maybe they might be marrying and not ruining the family's reputation, and conjectures, right? Their hypothesis as to what actually is really going on, guys. Nothing really could be added, on this subject by repeating its discussion, but nothing could contain them from it long, because Lydia is the utmost attention, guys. This is the most important thing. What are they going to talk about? The weather? I mean, come on. No, they're going to be talking about Lydia. So seems like it was just Lydia talking about Lydia, and hopefully that she returns back during the whole of their journey back. Now, from Elizabeth's thoughts, it was never absent. Yeah, I mean, that's her sister. And from fixed there by the keenest of all anguish, self-reproach, she could find no interval of ease or forgetfulness. So, Elizabeth's back internally, guys. She's back in her thoughts, it seems. The keenest of all anguish, self-reproach. So she's talking to herself, probably in her thoughts, and talking about how, that she was the one in which could have prevented this, probably. Yeah, no interval of ease or forgetfulness. So, she's maybe putting the blame on herself really hard, the keenest of all anguish. And if she would have, maybe, she's thinking, if she would have just maybe said to Lydia who Wickham really was, maybe this could have all been washed away and this would have not happened. But, you take the blame, because probably she has taken some blame. But once again, you went to your father. You said what you had to say, and you said it once, you made it clear, and he had to have taken the responsibility, but, he didn't. So, but it's a complex situation. But let's continue on. Now, they traveled as expeditiously as possible. Yeah, because this is the utmost important. We got to get back, guys. And sleeping one night on the road, reached Longbourn by dinner time the next day. Let's go, guys. I ain't even going to talk about what's on the plate at dinner time, because this is really important. This is Lydia time right now. So it was a comfort to Elizabeth to consider that Jane could not have been wearied by long expectations. So even in this moment, guys, Elizabeth is still thinking of Jane. That, because remember in the letter, Jane was like, I want to be selfish, and can I say that I miss you and come home really quick? And Elizabeth thought that, at least Jane wasn't wearied or run down more of long expectations, because they booked it fast back to Longbourn. Now the little gardeners, there's 4 of them. The little gardeners, attracted by the sight of a chaise, were standing on the steps of the house, as they entered the paddock. And when the carriage drove up to the door, the joyful surprise that lighted up their faces and displayed itself over their whole bodies in a variety of capers and frisks was the first pleasing earnest of their welcome. Guys, is this not precious? This is not precious, because once again, this also shows how innocent and sweet kids are. That, they don't understand the complexities of the world yet. I think the oldest is 8. And they just want to see their mom and dad again. Because it's been a while, right? So as soon as they see the chaise, they know who's in it. They're jumping for joy. I don't think capers and frisks, I don't think we're talking about food here. I think they're displaying such happiness, felicity on their whole entire face, their whole entire body. They're jumping up for joy. And that was the first pleading earnest of their welcome. I mean, and it kind of is showing how, the difference in age, they obviously don't know what's going on. So they're going to be super, super, super excited. So one thing could be true while other things are going on at the same time as well. They're so cute. Kids are so precious. But let's continue on. And there they are. They're so cute. They like, Mommy, Daddy, Lizzie. Ah! They're so, so, so cute. But let's continue on. Now, Elizabeth jumped out and, after giving each of them a hasty kiss, hurried into the vestibule, where Jane, who came running downstairs from her mother's apartment, immediately met her. Yeah, I mean, who does she want to see? Jane, guys. She wants to hold Jane tight, hug her, greet her. That's who she's excited for. So, like, the kids are so excited for mommy and daddy. Elizabeth basically is doing the same thing to Jane, basically. And Jane is basically doing the same thing too. She's running down the stairs. They met each other. Cute. This is kind of for like comfort, I'm assuming. And yeah, I mean, Elizabeth, as she affectionately embraced her, Willis' tears filled the eyes of both, lost not a moment in asking whether anything had been heard of the fugitives. Yeah, so they just went right to it, guys. They went right to it. What's going on? Any new news from Wickham or Lydia? And Jane replies, "Not yet," replied Jane. "But now that my dear uncle is come, I hope everything will be well." Yes, because Mr. Gardner was going to help their father, Mr. Bennet, out in London, because Mr. Bennet, isn't really familiar with London town, so he needs a little help. So, Mr. Gardner to the rescue, guys. Let's go. So cute. All right. Now, Elizabeth comes back and says, "Well, is my father in town?" And Jane replies and says, "Yes, he went on Tuesday, as I wrote you word." And Elizabeth comes back and says, "And have you heard from him often? Like, is there any news? Anything at all? What is going on?" And Jane comes back and says, "We have heard only once. He wrote me a few lines on Wednesday to say that he had arrived in safety, and to give me his directions, which I particularly begged him to do." Yeah, tell us your whereabouts, because clearly someone is lost. We're not going to have two people lost. Goshies forbidsies that, two family members are now lost. We ain't going to be having that. So you got to tell us your directions. Tell us where you are. And, that's a Jane thing to do. He merely added that he should not write again till he had something of importance to mention. I mean, Mr. Bennet, can't we just... But that's who he is. He said, "I ain't gonna write again until I need to write back." But I have to say that maybe because in that time he could be out looking for Lydia. So I would hope that he's not writing, because he is spending all of his effort, all of his time to try to find Lydia. Let's go. Let's go. And Elizabeth comes back and says, "And my mother? How is she? How are you all?" "Well, mommy's in bed. Mommy hasn't seen the light of day for the past, week or so. So, yeah, everybody's not doing well. Here we go. So, what's going on with mommy?" Jane says, "My mother is tolerably well." "Okay. Tolerably. Okay-ish, I trust. Though her spirits are greatly shaken. It is, it pains her, but we won't make any light of the situation. This is serious stuff. I mean, Lydia is lost. So, of course, her spirits are going to be completely shaken up. She is upstairs and will have great satisfaction in seeing you all. She does not yet leave her dressing room." Yeah, I mean, she hasn't been outside, no nothing. And yeah. "Mary and Kitty, thank heaven, are quite well." Yeah, because Mary's like, whatever. I'd rather be playing piano, reading my books. And Kitty is like, "I knew this was going to happen the whole time." Girl, But then Elizabeth comes back and says, "But you, tell me, how are you?" cried Elizabeth. "You look pale. How much you must have gone through." Yeah, while Elizabeth is away, you know? So please, Jane, tell us, how are you? And Jane's probably going to be like, "I'm fine. I'm fine. Nothing really going on with me. I'm good. Don't worry about me. Don't worry about me. Please, I'm fine." Let's see what Jane says. Guys, I mean, Jane is Jane. Her sister, however, assured her of her being perfectly well, because She does not want Elizabeth to waste any energy thinking of Jane. But Elizabeth's going to do it anyway, guys. We know. So let's see. And their conversation, which had been passing while Mr. and Mrs. Gardner were engaged with their children, was now put an end to by the approach of the whole party. Okay, so everybody's coming together. So we had the Gardners hanging out with the children. Elizabeth and Jane were talking, right? Mrs. Bennet's still in the house. Mary, Kitty, we have no idea. They're just chilling. Now, all of a sudden, the whole party's coming together. So Jane ran to her uncle and aunt and welcomed and thanked them both with alternate smiles and tears. Yeah, I mean, it's happy to be home, happy to see you, but it's on such horrible circumstances, and that's where the tears are coming. So let's keep it going. Now, while they were all in the drawing room, which is not the same place where Mrs. Bennet is, so they're all in the drawing room, the questions which Elizabeth had already asked were, of course, repeated by the others. And they soon found that Jane had no intelligence to give. And the questions were basically, where's Dad? What's going on? Any new, advancements in where they are, anything at all. So those questions were asked again, and once again, Jane just said that she has no intelligence to give. Now, the sanguine hope of good, however, which the benevolence of her heart suggested, Jane, had not yet deserted her. Jane, just, the sanguine hope of good that hopefully Wickham married Lydia. Kiki, take a deep breath in. You got this. Benevolence of her heart suggested had not yet deserted her, because that's who Jane is. She's still thinking that there's still good in the situation. Well, let's keep it going. She still expected that it would all end well. I mean, I hope so too, for Lydia's sake. Whatever the good ending is, I hope that's what it is. So she still expected that it would all end well, and that every morning would bring some letter, either from Lydia or her father, to explain their proceedings and perhaps announce the marriage. Yeah, because that would be the best thing in this case, that they get married, the family's not going to be ruined, the reputation's not going to be ruined, and that be that. And every morning it seems that they're waiting from a letter from either Lydia or her dad, and nothing's coming. But let's keep it going. Now, Mrs. Bennet, to whose apartment they all repaired, after a few minutes' conversation together, received them exactly as might have been expected. Now, how are we going to expect it, guys? Seems like they're all going up to Mrs. Bennet's apartment to brief her in on everything that we know, or what's going down, or any new ideas, installments in the case. How is she going to, receive them? So it's Mrs. Bennet, maybe because her nerves are ramping up. Maybe she's hopefully going to be quelled by it. I don't know, but her daughter's lost. But also we know that Mrs. Bennet, whenever someone does something wrong of her daughters, she's going to go to the ends of it. So, for example, in the beginning, when she got heard that Darcy said the tolerable comment to Elizabeth, I mean, that was it. She just went over the edge with Darcy. So we'll see. But what's going on? How did she expect it? Yes, with tears and lamentations of regret, invectives against the villainous conduct of Wickham, and complaints of her own sufferings and ill usage. Yeah, so that's what it is. You go against my daughter, that's the end. And that's what it seems like it is. Tears, obviously. I mean, she's in great pain. She's now lamenting over regret. Regret of maybe letting her go to Brighton, because she was the one that was like, go and tell us all about it. Meanwhile, Lydia ain't telling her anything. Well, she was telling Kitty. Kitty was just not reading the underlined information. And she's now going on about the villainous conduct of Wickham. And then, once again, complaints of her own suffering, because that's who Mrs. Bennet is, blaming everybody but the person to whose ill-judging indulgence the errors of her daughter must be principally owing. Jane Austen is a savage because this now is kind of tuning it back and saying that Mrs. Bennet is basically blaming everybody but the person to whose horrible indulgence of the errors of Lydia, her daughter, must be principally owing to. I wonder who that is. Who was indulging her? It was you, Mrs. Bennet. It was you. Basically, she's going around pointing the finger at everybody, especially Wickham, and then putting the finger on everybody else, saying, it's me, it's the complaints of my own suffering. My daughter's out there, but doesn't anybody know how I suffer? Okay, but she ain't blaming the person who should have been, putting the blame, and that's yourself. So, savage. Well, let's keep it going. Let's see. So she actually has some words. She says, "If I had been able," said she, "to carry my point in going to Brighton with all my family, this would not have happened." Girl, no. Just no. That's how you're going to take it? That's how you're going to take this? If she was able to actually go with the fam, this would have happened? Yeah. Just like we've been talking in the comments, guys, that, if it happened at midnight with the militia around, it probably would have gonna be happening with the family around as well. Right? So I don't know, but somebody is to blame. Somebody is. But apparently, Mrs. Bennet is the savior. And, if actually we were going, this would not have happened. Okay. All right. So who are we putting the blame on? Your own husband? But poor dear Lydia had nobody to take care of her. She's got a point there. But where's the no? You said yes. You said yes. She's very complicated. Why did the Foresters ever let her go out of their sight? I can kind of see that. But it was midnight, and I don't know what's going on. But if she had her own room and anything, easily she could have snuck out. But, somebody is to blame. Who is it? We still don't know where Lydia is. We still don't know the intentions. So here we go. "I am sure there was some great neglect, or other, on their side, for she is not the kind of girl to do such a thing, if she had been well looked after." Okay, so it seems like she's putting the full blame not on herself. Because she can't even think that far back. Like, she doesn't understand that a small ripple can lead to a massive impact. So she's only looking at the actual drop in the pond, that it was the Foresters' problem, right? And they weren't looking after her, because it clearly isn't Lydia's problem, because Lydia has the same personality as her own mother. So Lydia can't be the problem, and it's the Foresters' problem. But she can't pull back and actually say, "Oh, shoot, I actually am at blame here as well, because I'm the one, half of the problem in which I indulged her." But no, we can't think that far. We can't think that far, guys. But, for she is not the kind of girl to do such a thing. Of course she's going to say that, because her and Lydia are like two peas in a pod. So she would never be able to say anything's wrong with Lydia, because that might seem to her like something's wrong with herself. So she ain't going to go that way. But she's not done, so let's keep it going. "I always thought they were very unfit to have the charge of her." Where was this before she went? But no, she wanted her to go. She wanted her to go and tell her everything. Well, Lydia came back, but, underlined some stuff, just like we said. "But I was overruled, as I always am." So we're putting the blame on Daddy-O. Okay. Which, I see that it's both you guys. You guys are in a partnership. Now, back in Regency era, that's, I believe from what I learned from you guys, that the father has way more pull than the mother. But over here, on these streets, this is a 50-50 tango, guys. So she was overruled, as she usually is, talking about her own husband, because he said she gonna learn today, let her make mistakes, and she'll correct them by herself, like Lydia would. Come on. Poor dear child. And now here's Mr. Bennet gone away, and I know he will fight Wickham wherever he meets him. Ooh, we dueling it out? We are dueling it? Oh, shoot. So here's Mr. Bennet going away, and I know he will fight Wickham wherever he meets him, and then he will be killed, and what is to become of us all? Oh, my God. This woman is on a track, on a roller coaster. Guys, we played Roller Coaster Tycoon. Come on. You built the track where literally you made it as high as you can go, and you dropped it, let it come back up, and then there was no more track. This is what Mrs. Bennet is doing. She is literally, she's on the track, and then she just goes and then just right off. I couldn't have been the only one that was playing Roller Coaster Tycoon like that. I mean, come on. But yeah, this is what she's saying, that Mr. Bennet's gone. Now she's thinking of the entail and how Longbourn is going to Collins, Lydia's gone away, Mr. Bennet's no more. We got potentially 4 or 5 daughters if Lydia's coming back, and no male heir, so we can't go off of him, right? In the fam, in the nuclear fam, right? The immediate fam. So she's just spiraling, guys, for lack of a better term. She is spiraling. The Collinsons will turn us out before he is cold in his grave. Oh my gosh. And if you are not kind to us, brother, I do not know what we shall do. Ah, so she's already she's looking for the future ahead. Like, she's going straight to Mr. Gardner. So not only is Jane going to Mr. Gardner, but now Mrs. Bennet's going to Mr. Gardner for help. Plus, they got 4 kids. Now you got to bring in 5 daughters plus a wife. I mean, come on. Whew. But that's how it was, But this is crazy, though. But she's done with her rant. But she took it. She took it somewhere that nobody would have took it. But honestly, do we expect anything less from her? Nah. But let's keep it going. Now, they all exclaimed against such terrific ideas. Yeah. Like, no, that's not going to happen. No, we good. And Mr. Gardner, after general assurances of his affection for her and all her family, told her that he meant to be in London the very next day. Ah, yes. So, general assurances of his affection for the family. We'll make it work. We'll do. Don't worry. I love you guys. We'll do what we got to do. Let's just get Lydia home. That he's going now to London the next day, and would assist Mr. Bennet in every endeavor for recovering Lydia. Love it. Let's get there. We got to get her back. Let's keep it going. Now, Mr. Gardner comes back and says, dun dun dun, do not give way to useless alarm, added he. So, aka, don't talk like that. Don't think those things. Though it is right to be prepared for the worst. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best. So, though it is right to be prepared for the worst, there is no occasion to look on it as certain. Yeah, because once again, he's like, we need absolute proof. Where is the absolute proof? And he's going the next day to find it. So, here we go. It is not quite a week since they left Brighton. Okay, so less than 7 days. It's not quite a week. In a few days more, we may gain some news about them. Okay? Until we know that they are not married, for certain, with absolute proof. And till we know that they are not married and have no design of marrying, do not let us give the matter over as lost. Yeah, so let's just assume that they're getting married, hope for the best. And until we know that they are not married and that they have no plan, no design of being married, let's just hope for the best, okay? And then once we know with absolute proof, then we'll think about those other things. Now, as soon as I get to town, I shall go to my brother, Mr. Bennet, and make him come home with me to Gracechurch Street, and then we may consult together as to what is to be done. great plan. We need a planner because obviously Mr. Bennet, he's not. I don't think of him as a really, really, really good planner. So I'm glad that someone here who's working in trade, he owns a very successful business, and seems like he's very high up in his career, that he can formulate a plan. Let's do this. We're going to bring her back home. Love it. Let's do this. So now, Mrs. Bennet comes and says, "Oh, my dear brother," replied Mrs. Bennet, "that is exactly what I could most wish for. And now do, when you get to town, find them out, wherever they may be." So she's immediately talking about Wickham and Lydia. Like, get to town, get to Mr. Bennet, go back to Gracechurch Street, find a plan, and figure out where they are. This is exactly what she could wish for. When you get to town, find them out wherever they are. Do your absolute best, which I'm sure he's going to do. And if they are not married already, make them marry. Yeah, I mean, this kind of goes back to their reputation. They got no other way, guys. They are too far gone. Lydia is too far gone. Gossip is going to get out, right? Golly forbid that basically she lives with Wickham without being married. I mean, that is not going to happen. So basically, if they aren't married, you're going to make them. Because the reputation over here around these streets aren't going to be ruined. Let's see. "And as for wedding clothes, do not let them wait for that. But tell Lydia she shall have as much money as she chooses to buy them after they are married." AKA, get the deed done, sign the papers, you have my blessing, get them married, and then whatever you want to do, you want to get a little festival going on over here, you want to buy some clothes afterwards, we'll do that after. And it seems like she knows her daughter because she's maybe incentivizing it. Once again, we're going back to the indulgence, guys, that she's kind of getting into what Lydia wants. Lydia loves fashion and Lydia loves clothes. So Mrs. Bennet, from what I'm seeing here, it's like she's going to tell her she's going to have whatever she wants. Whatever she wants, just as long as you get married. It's kind of like saying a kid, kid wants to play video games or whatever. They don't want to do homework. And, you could play as many hours of video games as you want. You just got to do the homework, okay? You just got to study for that really hard test. But afterwards, you could do as much. And then once that happens and they do all the homework and then they're like, "Okay, I get all my video games." I'm like, nah, you get like 10 minutes. But that's what it seems to me, that she's trying to persuade her to get the marriage, and then you can have all the money that you want. Meanwhile, I mean, they ain't bagging it, they're not as Bingley status with money or obviously Darcy status, but they got money though. I think what does Mr. Bennet have? I think 4,000, 5,000 a year, so pretty well off. But she shall have as much money as she chooses. Don't tell Lydia that, because Lydia is going to be asking for something much more than you can give her. But anyway, that's besides the point. "And above all things, keep Mr. Bennet from fighting." Now, this has to be some Regency thing. I mean, I assume, actually, this could just be like, "What are you doing with my daughter? What are you doing with my daughter?" And then, put him up. That could be what it just is, right? How can you possibly do this to my daughter and my family reputation? Yeah, put him up. Let's go. Let's go outside. Okay? Yeah, bye. But she's not done yet, so let's keep it going. "Tell him what a dreadful state I am in." Oh my gosh. Why are we going back to you? No one cares. No one cares about you. We all care about Lydia, yes. But please, tell him what a dreadful state I am in, that I am frightened out of my wits. He is just going to chuckle at that, guys. We know who Mr. Bennet is. We know that he loves to put her in those places anyway, right? Especially since the beginning of the novel, where he played it along that he wasn't even going to visit Bingley, right? So this is not going to quell him down. "And have such tremblings, such flutterings all over me, such spasms in my side and pains in my head, and such beatings at my heart, that I can get no rest by night nor by day. Oh gosh, woe is me, woe is me. Get out the whatever makes sorrowful music, guys, okay? Oh, a violin. Get the violin out, okay? Yeah. But she's gonna bring it back to her. But here we go. Let's keep it going. And tell my dear Lydia not to give any direction about her clothes till she has seen me. Yes. For she does not know which are the best warehouses. Yeah. So tell her that she could have as much money as she wants for the clothes, but don't be telling her any addresses because, I need to tell her where we're going to go. Yeah, because you already said that she could do as much money as she possibly can. But we're going to tamper off that Elizabeth a little bit, So, oh, brother, how kind you are. I know you will contrive it all. Yeah, he's got a lot on his plate, and he's probably like, my sister is crazy. My sister's absolutely nuts. But this is her speech. This is her monologue now. So it's got to be mostly about her. But, tell Lydia she could have all the clothes in the world as possible, all the money in the world. But, don't tell her to actually where to go, because I know where the warehouses are. And make sure my husband doesn't get in a fight. But thank you so much, brother. Let's continue on. But Mr. Gardner, though he assured her again of his earnest endeavors in the cause, could not avoid recommending moderation to her, as well in her hopes as her fears. And this is who Mr. Gardner is. We need absolute proof. So before you jump in on the roller coaster from Roller Coaster Tycoon, right? Just to nothingness, just chill. We got no absolute proof. We don't know what's really going on. And he's going to give it his all. He's going to give his earnest endeavors in the cause. But he could not avoid recommending her. So he's like, just chill. Moderation. Let's just chill it out. We don't really know what's going on. And that is so Mr. Gardner, though. And after talking with her in that manner till dinner was on the table, whew, I mean, he knows how to deal with his sister, probably. They've been at it for a while. So after talking with her in this manner till dinner was on the table, they left her to vent all her feelings on the housekeeper. Oh my gosh, this poor housekeeper who attended in the absence of her daughters. Yeah, okay. Basically, because she's still, in her apartment. This poor housekeeper, but she's like, I'm getting paid, so I'll listen to whatever. Okay, woe is me, okay. Can you imagine just Mrs. Bennet just in her apartment, just talking to the housekeeper? Like, what is the housekeeper going to say? Okay, yep. So, my gosh, but let's keep it going. Now, though her brother and sister were persuaded that there was no real occasion for such a seclusion from the family, they did not attempt to oppose it. So Mr. and Mrs. Gardner, we know, guys, that they can see through things, right? They latched on that Darcy is basically in love with Elizabeth. So they can see right through, and they persuaded themselves that there's no real occasion why Mrs. Bennet should be in her apartment all along. That she's not really in real nerves, but what can they do? They didn't attempt to oppose it. They didn't be like, you don't need to be down here. You don't need to be in your apartment. Come down with the fam. But whatever. But they could see right through her, and she's on stage, guys. She really is. She should have been like a theater major. She just needs to be on stage at all times. But who else? Lydia. Yeah. But let's keep it going. For they knew that she had not prudence enough to hold her tongue before the servants, just like we were talking about, guys, right? She's not going to be wise enough to hold her tongue. She is going to be yapping away at the housekeeper before the servants. Okay. And, so for they knew that she had no prudence, nothing wise in her enough to hold her tongue before the servants while they waited at table, and judged it better that one only of the household and the one whom they could most trust should comprehend all her fears and solicitude on the subject. So word talks around. Seems like they're not opposing it because they know that she ain't gonna be holding her tongue. So at the dinner table, she probably gonna be running her mouth, talking about Lydia, how she's not married, and the servants are gonna be around. And the gardeners are wise enough to know that we need to keep this in the family. So let her stay in the apartment. Get that one housekeeper, the one that they trust fully, the one that they could most trust. Put her in the apartment and just let her hear it all. Don't let it spread out, because the more people that know, the more that it's going to spread. But let us continue. Now, in the dining room, they were soon joined by Mary and Kitty. Yeah, so just like as we said, when everybody was outside, saying hi, hello, hugging and everything and talking about it, Mary and Kitty weren't even there, it seems. But now they're in the dining room. Let's see how they're doing. So in the dining room, they were soon joined by Mary and Kitty, who had been too busily engaged in their separate apartments to make their appearance before. Now, this is interesting because I think this is the first chapter in which we've been hearing about apartments. And I'm assuming that the apartments is just the bedrooms, maybe. So they're in their own separate rooms, and maybe that's why Mrs. Bennet might not sleep in the same room as Mr. Bennet. Maybe they have two separate rooms, two separate apartments. But if it is anything else, thank you so much. I know you guys will let me know. You guys are the best, honestly. You rock. So, could be that, but they were engaged in their separate apartments to make their appearance before. I mean, what is Kitty doing? Can anybody tell us what Kitty's doing? She can't make any opinion of herself either. We know what Mary was doing, but what's Kitty doing? Coughing up a storm? I don't know, right? But let's keep it going. Now, one came from her books. Jane Austen, thank you. She always answers the questions I ask. So one came from her books, and the other from the toilet. I can't. Just like as we said, guys, what is she doing? Thank you. Yes. The faces of both, however, were tolerably calm, and no change was visible in either, except that the loss of her favorite sister, or the anger which she had herself incurred in the business, had given something more of fretfulness than usual to the accents of Kitty. So this is Kitty now. So as for both of them, they are tolerably calm. Not incredibly, but, as calm as they can be, enough calm to make them seem calm. And no change was visible in either, so it's like just a normal day. But the loss of her favorite sister, this is Kitty. Her favorite sister is obviously Lydia. She's gone. So the loss of her favorite sister, or the anger which she had herself incurred in the business, because she knew. She knew. She had the underline, but she didn't say anything. So I'm assuming she's probably feeling angry about that. Had given something more of fretfulness. Yeah, because she's not here, and you could have stopped it. So she has her own anger to deal with. And I love how, Jane Austen gives a much more simpler emotion for Kitty. It's not like a self-reproach that we saw when Elizabeth was going through it. It's just the basic anger with Kitty. Just kind of clocking it, if that makes anything, right? But just kind of seeing it. So that's basically Kitty. Now, as for Mary, she was mistress enough of herself to whisper to Elizabeth with a countenance of grave reflection soon after they were seated at table. Oh boy, what is she reflecting on? What is she going to say? Mary, I don't think the time is now. Let's save it for another day. But she wanted to whisper something with a grave reflection on her face. What was she been thinking about? Let's see. Here we go. This is a most unfortunate affair. Okay. All right. Okay, Mary. This is a most unfortunate affair, and will probably be much talked of. Check. But we must stem the tide of malice, and pour into the wounded bosom of each other the balm of sisterly consolation. Mary, what are we even saying here? What the stem, the tide, what are you even talking about? Girl, we must stem the tide of malice, tie the stem, stem it, so maybe get rid of malice, don't be hateful, and pour into the wounded bosom of each other the balm of sisterly consolation. What are we even girl, just go back to your room. Just go back to your apartment. It's okay. We got it from here. Guys, I honestly have no idea what this is being said. If I had to put things together, we see sisterly consolation, so sisters together, and pour into, so come together. Let's all come together as sisters. We must stem the tide of malice, the hateful talk, maybe the hateful gossip. Guys, I have no idea. Just tell her, take your food and go to your room. That's it. We good, Mary. We good. Thank you. Thank you for this reflection that you've once had. Can we just say this is horrible? Can't you just say this is going to be probably a lot of gossip? Let's just make sure that we're all together in on this. Is that too hard to say? Whatever. But let's keep it going. Now then, perceiving in Elizabeth no inclination of reply, Mary, we don't need this right now. We don't really need this, no. And I love how Elizabeth is just done with her. Elizabeth, no inclination of replying. She doesn't even want to reply to her. But, Mary's Mary, and she was saying that she's not genius, but she takes complete pride in how much she's learned. So she's just going to let everybody know with all these words. What are we going to say, Mary? Here we go. So she adds, unhappy as the event must be for Lydia. Okay. I mean, we don't know yet. Maybe Lydia is in blissful felicity. We have no idea. But unhappy as the event must be for Lydia, we may draw from it this useful lesson. Girl, just stop. We don't need no lessons here. The lesson that we need is lesson 1. Where's Lydia? That's the lesson, okay? The lesson is go find her. That's what it is, okay? Let's do that. But let's listen to what Mary's lesson is, okay? That loss of virtue in a female is irretrievable. Oh boy. Okay. That one false step involves her in endless ruin. Okay, check. AKA loss of virtue, you're going to ruin your reputation forever. So, if this is going to happen with no marriage, that loss is irretrievable. She ain't going to get it back. One false step, endless ruin. Mary, can we just stop? I love how she's just talking so objectively about this, as if Lydia isn't even her sister. My gosh. That her reputation is no less brittle than it is beautiful, and that she cannot be too much guarded in her behavior towards the undeserving of the other sex. Mary, Mary, where's the care? Where's the care of your sister? Huh? What is going on here? I mean, this is a true lesson. Lydia is just a specimen to Mary. I mean, this is crazy. That, it's, where was it? Her reputation is no less brittle than it is beautiful. So her reputation is going to be shattered. And that she cannot be too much guarded in her behavior towards the undeserving of the other sex. So, yeah, I mean, if she stumbles upon a bad man, she's going to ruin all the consequences, which I think would probably be true. I mean, for this situation that's going down, if they don't get married, Lydia's reputation is going to be ruined. But I'm sure, because it's the Regency era, that men's reputation, Wickham's reputation will bounce right back. Because, guys, look at his track record. I mean, with Georgiana and all the debts that he left to the townspeople and everything like that, he's bouncing back like nothing happened. So why does it have to be so bad for Lydia? But, it's the time. It's the time, I guess, which absolutely sucks. But the thing is that, Lydia is just a lesson for Mary, and that's the problem here. I don't like it. Girl, Girl, just, you done? Oh, she is, because the quotes. But let's keep it going. Now, Elizabeth lifted up her eyes in amazement. Yeah, probably because your sister's missing and you're going to make this a lesson? No, I'm done. So Elizabeth lifted up her eyes in amazement, but was too much oppressed to make any reply. Yeah. Mary, however, continued to console herself with such kind of moral extractions from the evil before them. She keeps talking, guys, but thank you for Jane Austen to spare us with what she's going to console herself with. But yeah, I mean, Elizabeth just had it with her. And she's only been here for like 2 pages, guys. We've done with Mary. Middle Mary can go bye-bye, all right? And yeah, but let's keep it going. Now, in the afternoon, the 2 elder Miss Bennets, so Jane and Elizabeth, were able to be for half an hour by themselves. Okay, they need that. They need that time. And Elizabeth instantly availed herself of the opportunity to make any inquiries which Jane was equally eager to satisfy. Oh, guys, girl talk, sister talk. So, yeah, so they instantly connect for a half an hour, and basically Elizabeth is just going to just ask her any of the questions, any inquiries that she wants to ask, and Jane does the same. So they're not done talking about it because obviously Lydia's gone. So they're just trying to see what everybody knows, where we stand, what's going on. Let's keep it going. Now, after joining in general lamentations over the dreadful sequel of this event, yeah, I mean, it's not happy, guys, right? We know that by now. But they're going to lament over it. It's been a dreadful sequence of events, which Elizabeth considered as all but certain. And Miss Bennet could not assert to be wholly impossible. The former continued the subject by saying. Now, before we get into what Elizabeth says, it's interesting that with everything that went down, Elizabeth considered as all but certain. So basically, she's almost at the certain, guys, but she still has questions. But as opposed to Miss Bennet, aka Jane, she could not assert to be wholly impossible. So it's interesting how the 2 sisters are trying to come together with the same information they know, but they are thinking different things because obviously they're different sisters. I mean, Jane is going to want to try to see the best out of everybody, but she's turning around now. But let's see. Now Elizabeth says, "But tell me all and everything about it which I have not already heard. Let's spin it some way." Right? If you don't get it the first way, say it again, and maybe we'll get it the second time. And if we don't get it the second time, say it again, and we'll get it the third time. So tell me all and everything about it which I have not already heard. Give me further particulars. What did Colonel Forster say? Had there no apprehension of anything before the elopement took place? They must have seen them together forever. Yep, I mean, here's just some questions, and, Jane is going to come back and answer them, right? So let's just see. What did Colonel Forster say? Because maybe the specifics weren't in the letter. Because Colonel Forster he was at the house. So what did he say when he was at Longbourn? Had they no apprehension of anything before the elopement took place? Did they not notice anything or anything that went down between Wickham and Lydia? So they must have seen them together, right? Because if this was going to happen, they had to have been together. But let's see. Now Jane comes back and says, well, Colonel Forster did own that he had often suspected some partiality, especially on Lydia's side, because that's who Lydia is. Lydia will go where the attention is. So Colonel Forster came to Longbourn, said some things. Apparently, he did own that he had suspected some partiality, especially on Lydia's side. Okay, so Lydia was in. She was in. But nothing to give him any alarm. Okay, let's keep it going. I am so grieved for him. Yeah, okay. His behavior was attentive and kind to the utmost. Yeah, I mean, because maybe this might ruin the militia reputation. Maybe Colonel Forster will get some type of talking to, or, maybe his reputation might be tainted or something. So maybe that's why Jane is saying that, she's so grieved for him. But girl, Jane, come on. No, don't be trying to put, it's all good, that it's fine. But his behavior was attentive and kind when he came. I mean, yeah, because he's got his own reputation on the line as well. So of course he's going to be so kind. He was the one that was in her care. He was coming to us in order to assure us of his concern before he had any idea of their not being gone to Scotland. Okay, yes. So he came to Longbourn to assure us that he's super, super concerned. And this was before he had any idea that they didn't go to Scotland, which means that they're not going to get married, or maybe Wickham had no intention of getting married. When that apprehension first got abroad, it hastened his journey. Yeah, because now he's like, oh, shoot, maybe I'm going to get some bad press from this as well. The gossip is going to get to me too. So he's going to hasten his journey to Longbourn to try to get Lydia. Where is Lydia? Still, we don't even know where Lydia is. But let's keep it going. And Elizabeth comes back and says, and was Denny convinced that Wickham would not marry? Because that's what the letter said. Did he know of their intending to go off? Had Colonel Forster seen Denny himself? Okay, because all we know is that Wickham told Denny that he has no intention of marrying Lydia. But let's see. Now, Jane comes back and says, yes, but when questioned by him, Denny denied knowing anything of their plan and would not give his real opinion about it. Bro code? Is this bro code, guys? That I don't know anything. He didn't tell me anything. Is that what's going on here? He denied knowing anything of their plan. I didn't know that they were going to go away. So now we're hearing two things from Denny. We're hearing that Denny heard that Wickham told him that he wasn't going to marry, but now apparently Denny don't know anything. Okay. And would not give his real opinion about it. He did not repeat his persuasion of their not marrying. And from that, I am inclined to hope he might have been misunderstood before. Okay, because this is very Jane. Jane's like, it's okay. If that's okay, I'm inclined to hope that, you might not have been misunderstood before. I mean, Jane, come on. So basically, there's like two ways to go about this, right? There's the Jane way, where Jane is saying, he's been misunderstood before, so, it's okay for him not to talk. That's why he's not talking, because he doesn't really know. He might have misheard or misunderstood something. And then there's probably the Elizabeth way of, going through why Denny's not talking, and he's like, this is going into a full scandal, and he does not want to be anywhere near this scandal. He doesn't want his name in the scandal. He doesn't want anything to do with the scandal. So I got no opinion. I'm not going to talk. I didn't hear anything. But, if Denny did talk, I wonder why. Did Wickham specifically say to Denny that he had no intention? Or maybe Denny knows who Wickham is. And he went to Colonel Forster and said, yeah, I know my dude. He's not gonna marry Lydia. So there's a lot of ifs here. We don't really know what's going on. But as now for Denny, that's kind of falling apart. He's not talking. So let's keep it going. Now Elizabeth comes back and says, until Colonel Forster came himself, not one of you entertained a doubt, I suppose, of their being really married? Yeah. And so until Colonel Forster came to Longbourn himself, not one of you guys entertained just a small doubt of them being really married? There was no doubt? Are we married? Are we not married? What's going on here? And Jane comes back and says, well, how is it possible that such an idea should enter our brains? So, Elizabeth is basically saying, did anybody think that maybe she would run away and just not marry him? And Jane is like, How was it possible that such an idea would enter our brains? Absolutely not. We weren't thinking that. How could our sister, Lydia, do such a thing? She must know that she would ruin herself and her family's reputation. But let's keep it going for what Jane says. Now, I felt a little uneasy, a little fearful of my sister's happiness with him in marriage, because I knew that his conduct had not been always quite right. Yeah, I mean, so she's even kind of feels a little bit on edge, uneasy, a little fearful in Lydia's happiness when they were going to get married, because she knew from what Elizabeth has said to her that his conduct has not always been quite right. She knows about the Georgiana stuff, right? So she's probably thinking about that. Jane is thinking about that. But let's keep it going. And Jane keeps going and says, my father and mother knew nothing of that. We know that. They only felt how imprudent a match it must be. Kitty then owned, with a very natural triumph of knowing more than the rest of us. So, yeah. So first off, Mom and Dad, Mr. and Mrs. Bennet, they only felt how unwise this match is because probably from a financial standpoint, that Lydia's got no money and Wickham has not as much money as he should to support Lydia's lifestyle. So from that type of match, I would assume that. Now, Kitty then owned, right, with her very natural triumph and knowing more than the rest of us. Girl, your sister's missing. Your sister's missing, okay? Why are we triumphing over this? But Kitty then owned that in Lydia's last letter, she has prepared her for such a step. What? Wait, Kitty owned that in Lydia's last letter, she had prepared her for such a step. She had known, it seems, of their being in love with each other many weeks. Kitty! Kitty, no. This is the failings. This is the failings. You know, she had the underlines and she did not want to read it. She didn't want to read it out loud. Where is Kitty's emotional maturity, guys? It's in the trash. It's in the trash, and you know, it's just a lot of people. This is like a disaster from just little itty bitty things from here and there that made this huge disaster come about. So Kitty knew. She known for many weeks. Whatever. At this point, guys, whatever. But Elizabeth says, but not before they went to Brighton? And Jane responds, no, I believe not. I believe not. We don't know for certain. Everything, it seems, happened at Brighton, and Elizabeth was away, you know, and Lydia's gone to her own devices. It seems like everything, she went to Brighton, everything was good at Longbourn, she went to Brighton, and then boom, she met Wickham. Not that she met him, but she was talking more to him, and now boom, midnight they come, they jet set off in a carriage, and now they're somewhere in London. Well, let's keep it going. Now Elizabeth comes back and says, and did Colonel Forster appear to think ill of Wickham himself, right? What's Colonel Forrester's opinion of Wickham when this all was going on, right? Shouldn't he have, if he thought ill of him, shouldn't he have interfered with Lydia and Wickham when they were talking? Because he saw the partiality on Lydia's side. For Lydia's sake, he should have gotten in. So did he think ill of Wickham himself? Does he know his real character? And Jane says, well, I must confess that he did not speak so well of Wickham as he formerly did. So maybe he knows more than we think he does. But in that case, if he knew that Lydia was partial, he should have stopped it. Maybe Denny talked to Colonel Forster about Wickham. Maybe Denny knows some things just from being bros with him. He believed him to be imprudent and extravagant. Okay, well, there it is. Not wise and spending. A lot of spending going on, extravagant. And since this sad affair has taken place, it is said that he left Meryton greatly in debt. But I hope this may be false. We know it's not false, girl. We know it's not false. But once again, I hope this may be false. Jane, just accept for what it is. Come on. But this is Jane's flaw, you know? So this sad affair has taken place. he left Meryton greatly in debt. And that gives more info for Darcy, where he's like, I had to pay the debts for Wickham. So now he's debting it all up, this dude. He's the dude that's debting it all up, right? He's just spending money or saying he's going to pay them back, and then he never does. I mean, my goodness, geez. And Elizabeth comes back and says, Oh, Jane, had we been less secret, had we told what we knew of him, this could not have happened. Well, that was the thing. You knew the information, but honestly, I mean, if you would have told Lydia, I don't think it would have mattered. I don't think. The only thing that would have mattered is her not going. I think because, there was instances in this novel where, actually, I think of an instance, what was it, at the assembly or something, that something happened with Lydia and Kitty, and I think Kitty felt like she did something bad, and Lydia just didn't care. She just went on about doing the same stuff, and it was not the most wise thing to do. I don't think it was the Netherfield ball. I mean, that was a whole disaster in itself. But I think even before then, that something happened, and either someone said something to Kitty or Lydia, and Lydia was just like, whatever, and she just kept doing whatever she was doing. So I think that if she would have known, I don't think it really would have made a difference, honestly. I think the only thing was to get her to not go. That would have made the biggest difference. But, this is Elizabeth. She always will put some type of blame on herself because that's how much she cares. That's, and that's how she shows that she cares, because she's like, if I would have just did one extra thing, this would have changed all differently. But, sometimes you said what you had to say to your dad. You put it off your chest, and sometimes it's out of your hands. But let's keep it going. Now, Jane comes back and says, well, perhaps it would have been better, replied her sister. I guess it would have been a better outcome that this wouldn't have happened. And Elizabeth comes back and says, but to expose the former faults of any person without knowing what their present feelings were seemed unjustifiable. This is so Elizabeth. And maybe she might be thinking of herself here as well, because usually Elizabeth does that. To expose the former faults of any person without knowing what their present feelings are just seems unjustifiable. So maybe she's saying to expose the former faults of herself as far as Darcy goes without knowing what they feel now, that's not the right thing to do. So she's also, maybe she's thinking of herself while she's saying this, to expose Wickham's former faults, the $1,000, the $3,000, all the debts, coming back asking for the parsonage with Darcy, the Georgiana aspect of it, exposing all of those faults without knowing what their present feelings are, meaning how they feel maybe towards Lydia, if they truly love Lydia, doesn't seem the right thing to do. And Jane comes back and says, well, we acted with the best intentions. Yeah, and sometimes that's all you can do. That's why, you try your best. That's all we can do in life, guys. We just are out here just trying our best. I'm just trying my best to understand this book, guys. That's what I'm trying to do. But yeah, I mean, if you act with the best intentions and you try to do your best, what more can you do? So, I really do like we acted with the best intentions. I think that is so Jane and so beautifully said that basically, what more could we have done? So we tried our best, but let's keep it going. Now Elizabeth comes back and says, well, could Colonel Forster repeat the particulars of Lydia's note to his wife? Right? What happened in the letter? Because all we know is that it was midnight. Lydia scribbled some stuff on a paper, gave it to the Foresters, and then was like, peace out. What's in that note? And Jane says, well, he brought it with him for us to see. He brought it with him for us to see? Are we going to see the letter? Is this going to be mind-blowing, guys? Let's see. Jane then took it from her pocketbook and gave it to Elizabeth. And these were the contents. Okay. All right, here we go. Here's the letter, guys. Whew. My dear Harriet. So Harriet Forrester. Harriet is Mrs. Forrester's wife. You will laugh when you know where I am gone, and I cannot help laughing myself at your surprise tomorrow morning as soon as I am missed. Great start, Lydia, okay? Because yes, apparently this is a laughing matter, okay? You left in midnight. I mean, come on. So you're gonna laugh when you know that I'm gone at 8 a.m. Poof, Lydia, no more. Yeah, okay. And I cannot help laughing myself at your surprise tomorrow morning when I'm missed. I'm going to Gretna Green. Ah, so this is the Scottish Gretna Green. This is where to get married. I am going to Gretna Green. And if you cannot guess with who, I shall think you a simpleton. Lydia. For there is but one man in the world I love, and he is an angel. Oh, this is more painful than it was before, guys. So she thinks that she's, at this present moment, she's going to where are we going, guys? Scotland? Yeah, we're going to Scotland, Gretna Green, to get married, right over the border. And she's in love. He is an angel. Okay. I should never be happy without him, so think it no harm to be off. Okay, okay. So, I mean, but to put it in perspective, at this point, she is getting married, right? And if she does get married, there's no ruin. So she's in love, he's an angel, a blessing from above. Okay. And there's no harm in it. All right, let's keep it going. You need not send them word at Longbourn of my going. Wickham definitely knows what's up. He knows what's up. So he told Lydia, like, don't tell your fam. It's good. Don't tell your fam that you're going off with me. And mind you, she didn't even say who it was in the letter yet. So he's feeding her information, and she's just going along for the ride, guys. But honestly, I mean, she's what, 15, 16 years old? Like, yeah, she was manipulated. So she didn't even say the word. So let's keep it going. So you need not send them word at Longbourn of my going, because he knows. He knows that Elizabeth knows stuff about him. If you do not like it, for it will make the surprise the greater when I write to them and sign my name Lydia Wickham. Ah, okay. So she did say who it was. All right. So we'll give her that. But she wanted to tell them. She wanted to tell them to make the surprise greater that, hey, guess what? I'm married, and I'm married to Mr. Wickham. Okay? What a good joke it will be. Yes, it will certainly be a good joke. Even the parents, even Mr. and Mrs. Bennet is like, this is not a prudent marriage. He doesn't have as much money. So that's a great joke on your end, Lydia. I can hardly write for laughing. I'm laughing in pain. I am painfully laughing, guys. Pray make my excuses to Pratt for not keeping my engagement. Yo, she wasn't kidding. She wasn't kidding with the 5 or 6 men around her at all times. She was not kidding. She was engaged to Pratt. Lydia. Oh my gosh. So pray make my excuses to Pratt for not keeping my engagement and dancing with him tonight. 'Cause I'm out. I'm outies, guys. Tell him I hope he will excuse me when he knows all. And tell him I will dance with him at the next ball we meet with great pleasure. Now, that's an interesting thing because, I don't know. Well, actually, I do know the answer. Because Darcy danced with Mrs. Hurst, who is married. So, I'm assuming that even if you are married, you can still dance with other people. I was going to be like, what makes she think that she can dance with someone else now she's married? But I did see at, like, I think the Meryton Assembly that Mrs. Hurst danced with Darcy. So I think that's still good to go. But yeah, it's okay. We were engaged. He's going to be fine. He's going to be laughing. Ha ha, hee hee, hoo hoo. But, don't worry, because I'll dance with you. Meanwhile, this guy probably really did love her. Maybe Pratt's a really good, downright dude. But no, she got swept off her feet from Wickham. But let's keep it going. And the letter ends here, but let's see. I shall send for my clothes when I get to Longbourn. Okay? And I wish you would tell Sally to mend a great slit in my worked muslin gown before they are packed up. So I'm assuming this is, she might just want some more clothes. Maybe this would be like for the wedding, as opposed to what her mom was saying about how get her married and then we'll figure out the clothes. This might be what she's talking about, which honestly, Mrs. Bennet knows her daughter. She knows how to get her. I wonder if Mrs. Bennet knows of this letter. I would think so, guys. Because now it says it all here. I'm going to send for my clothes when I get to Longbourn. Meanwhile, Mrs. Bennet's like, tell her that we're going to buy anything that you want. Just be married. But I wish you would tell Sally to mend a great slit in my worked muslin gown before they are packed up. And maybe that's why Mrs. Bennet's like, don't be telling her what to do with the clothes or anything like that because, I know the best warehouses. Me. Goodbye. Give my luck to Connor Forrester. I hope you will drink to our good journey. Your affectionate friend, Lydia Bennet. So, from this, guys, she thinks she's getting married. Are we still getting married? We have no idea. But there's no evidence that they went to Gretna Green. There's evidence that they're just in London. Gosh, help us all. Help us all, guys. But here we go. Oh, thoughtless Lydia, cried Elizabeth when she had finished it. What a letter is this, to be written at such a moment? But at least it shows that she was serious in the object of her journey. Yeah, from the letter, she seemed sincere. She got swept off by Wickham. He's an angel. He's a beauty. She loves him. And she really thinks that she's getting married. There's nothing from that letter that I can see that they have an ulterior motive of some sort. It seems that that Lydia has an ulterior motive. But Wickham has whatever motives he's got going on. But as far as what Lydia's saying, she really thinks that she's getting married. But let's keep it going. So Elizabeth, says, what a letter is this to be written at such a moment? And, but at least it shows that she was serious in the object of her journey. Yeah. Whatever he might afterwards persuade her to, it was not on her side a scheme of infamy. Yeah. She thought that she was getting married. So whatever is going to happen now afterwards, this is not on her planning. She did not plan it. There's no design. There's no scheme of infamy from her side. She really is in love with Wickham. And my poor father, how he must have felt it. Yeah. Everybody's feeling it at this point, right? Yeah. But, from Lydia's side, it wasn't not to not get married. She wanted to get married. But we still don't know where she is, but let's keep it going. So Jane comes back and says, well, I never saw anyone so shocked. He could not speak a word for full 10 minutes. My mother was taken ill immediately, and the whole house in such a confusion. Yeah, I think Mr. Bennet finally realizes what years and years of neglect will give you, basically. Because Elizabeth spoke to him and told her everything and told her even what the outcome of what Lydia's life would be like, right, if she made a fool of herself. And that's why Elizabeth says, my poor father, how he must have felt it, because she knows that he, she knows that she spoke to him, basically, to tell him you should say no. And now he said whatever, and now this is happening. But the interesting part is that Jane said, because Jane was home when this all happened, that she never saw anyone so shocked. He could not speak a word for full 10 minutes. I think he really felt it at that moment. In those 10 minutes, usually he's sarcastic, he's witty, he's capricious, and for 10 minutes he didn't say a word. I think he realized, I let this happen. I truly do think that I think the whole weight of his situation, that he was the one that said, yeah, go. And this whole thing happened. And, now we're here where we're at. And he probably even read the letter too, because, Jane has it. So why wouldn't he read Lydia's letter? How she's in love with him and everything like that. And now he's got to take the repercussions from his own years of neglect. But I think that he might see it now. I mean, he's shocked. Jane says, I never saw anyone so shocked. So, you don't really realize it could happen to you until it happens, So, yeesh. But let's keep it going. But of course, we know that Mrs. Bennet would be ill immediately. So, and the whole house is in such confusion. Yeah, all right. Well, besides Mary, who's just writing, and she's like, oh, this is a great lesson. Lesson 1, Lydia. Okay. And Kitty's just like, well, I knew it all along, so yeah. But Elizabeth says, oh, Jane, cried Elizabeth, was there a servant belonging to it who did not know the whole story before the end of the day? Oh, guys, Elizabeth is already calling it. Like, we now know that Lydia might not be married, so we gotta get those servants in. So was there any servant who didn't know the whole story before the end of the day? Because gossip is gonna be spreading. So is there anybody who didn't know anything? Right? We need to keep this contained. And Jane says, well, I do not know. I hope there was that didn't know the story, because we don't want this stuff getting out. But to be guarded at such a time is very difficult. Yeah, think of your own mother. I mean, Elizabeth was away, so she couldn't do anything. We have no idea. Mrs. Bennet might have been rambling about through the whole entire house before Mr. Gardiner came and was like, maybe we should just bring one servant up to Mrs. Bennet. She might have been running her whole mouth to multiple servants. We know that she was like stuck in her room, in her apartment. Not that she was stuck, but she didn't want to come out. But, maybe there was multiple servants coming in and out. We don't know, right? So Jane says, but to be guarded at such a time is very difficult. My mother was in hysterics, yeah? And though I endeavored to give her every assistance in my power, because that's who Jane is, she's going to help her out, I'm afraid I did not do so much as I might have done. Jane, you just said we did it with our best intentions. But when it comes to your own doing, she can't admit that. I'm afraid I did not do so much as I might have done. Just, you did your best. You tried your best. But the horror of what might possibly happen almost took me from my faculties. And that's Jane, guys. She's also fighting it as well. The horror of what might have possibly happened, aka Lydia not marrying, took me from my faculties. And we saw it written down. She couldn't even put a word together, even though she did a great job when she was writing the letters. But even there, she was like, I don't even know what I'm writing. So she's fearful. She's not thinking straight. But yet, at the same time, she's trying to maintain her mother so that maybe the information doesn't get out of the house. But, the mom's talking all the time. Maybe their door was open. All you needed was a door open, guys. And now all the servants are going to be hearing it. So, yeah, I don't think, we really could have done much in that situation. But let's keep it going. Now, who is this? This is Elizabeth. So she says, your attendance upon her has been too much for you. Yeah, you've been taking most of the load, if not all the load. You do not look well. Oh, that I had been with you. You have had every care and anxiety upon yourself alone, which is true. Mommy's in her room, in her apartment. Kitty and Mary don't even care, right? Kitty a little bit, I would say, but Mary for sure no. And Mr. Bennet's now gone, so it was only Jane. And Jane comes back and says, well, Mary and Kitty have been very kind. Especially Kitty, I would say, right? Because she knew information, she didn't say it. And would have shared in every fatigue, I am sure. Jane, she's sure though, guys. but I did not think it right for either of them. Okay. So, AKA to maybe take the load off Jane. That Jane's going to do. Jane is a superwoman, guys. She will never ask for help. And she thinks that she could do everything by herself. But it's okay to ask for help, guys. It's okay. All right? If you're struggling. And Elizabeth sees that she's struggling. But she didn't think it was right for either of them. Kitty is slight and delicate. And Mary studies so much that her hours of repose should not be broken in on. Oh, give me a break. Give me a break. Now, I love Jane. I will love Jane till the end, right? I think she's so precious. But, like, as far as, like, you're not going to take Mary's studies away? Come on. She is fine. She could take a little bit of time off of her lessons and her studies and get back into the real life. You know what I mean? But she didn't want to burden them. Now, my Aunt Phillips came to Longbourn on Tuesday after my father went away and was so good as to stay till Thursday with me. Okay, so, sister came in, right? Because Aunt Phillips is Mrs. Bennet's actual sister. So she came in to Longbourn Tuesday, helped out for 2 days, Tuesday to Thursday. Okay, all right. So she's trying to basically say, like, I didn't do it all myself. I had the 2 days with my Aunt Phillips. Okay. And Jane keeps going on and says, well, she was of great use and comfort to us all. And Lady Lucas has been very kind. She walked here on Wednesday morning to condole with us, and offered her services, or any of her daughters, if they could be of use to us. But wait, I'm getting the idea, guys. They now know the information. And first off, don't be telling Mrs. Phillips anything, because Mrs. Phillips loves to gossip, and I don't even think she cares that it's her own family, guys. Now Lady Lucas is coming in, the Phillips is coming in, the servants are talking, maybe the doors might be wide open. So basically, you couldn't ask Kitty and Mary because they would have kept it in the family. Now you got Lady Lucas coming in, you got the Phillips coming in. Uh-oh. Big uh-oh, guys. This is getting out. Now it makes more sense as to why Mrs. Bennet's like, you gonna marry. You tell her she's got to marry now because it's out. It's out of the bag, guys. We got too many people in here. You got Denny. You got the Forresters. You got the Lucases now. You got the Phillips. You got the servants. Yeah. But let's see what Elizabeth says. She had better have stayed at home, cried Elizabeth. Yeah, because that's exactly what I was thinking. Because now you're entering it into the Lucas family. Perhaps she meant well, but under such a misfortune as this, one cannot see too little of one's neighbors. Yeah, gossip is gonna be spreading. And this reminds me of, like, when somebody in the neighborhood, who honestly, you didn't even have to talk to them ever, but your neighbor, all of a sudden, they decide that they want to put their house up for sale. Guess who's gonna be the first in line to see the house when the open house comes along? Yeah. All your neighbors. This is exactly what it reminds me of. But yeah, so that's what Elizabeth is saying. She meant well, but this is a misfortunate piece of our life as of right now. We don't need to be seeing our neighbors. Assistance is impossible. Condolence insufferable. Let them triumph over us at a distance and be satisfied. And, for a time where family ruin is going to happen because of one single person's bad decision, which might happen in this case, Elizabeth's got a point. Assistance is impossible. The neighbor's coming over. What are they going to assist in? They're not out there on the street trying to find Lydia, so they can't assist us in anything, the neighbors. Condolences are insufferable at this time. So, they're already grieving, Elizabeth and Jane, for this crazy, misfortunate, turn of events that happened here. They don't need your condolences. They don't need you to come into their house and be like, I'm so sorry that you're going through this. Yeah, we already know. Okay, you don't need to come in and tell that to me. So let them triumph over us at a distance and be satisfied. Yeah, let them, don't be coming into the house. You're good enough at your own house. Watch us from a distance, okay? Because we don't need the gossip to be spreading. And I think maybe, because it seems like she's getting heated here, She might even be thinking of Darcy once again. Now, it's not explicitly said here, and we haven't really been given insights as to if she's thinking of Darcy during this time. We know that she's constantly just thinking of Lydia, but I can only imagine that because she's thinking of now all this gossip is getting around, it's going to get right back to Darcy again, and which maybe might fuel him to stay away from Elizabeth. So just kind of like as an insight there. We don't really know what's going on in his realm over at Pemberley, but right now the most important thing is to get Lydia back. So let's keep it going. Now she then proceeded to inquire into the measures which her father had intended to pursue while in town for the recovery of his daughter. Yeah, I mean, how we doing it? What is he doing? What's his plan, right? Mr. Gardner had the plan, but what's going on? Tell me. So Jane says, well, he meant, I believe, replied Jane, to go to Epsom, the place where they last changed horses. Okay, where they change those horses, see the postilions and try if anything could be made out from them. So I guess trying to put two and two together just to see maybe we could see the tracks or something from the horses, from the feet. We don't know what's going on, just to see the change in the horses, where they might have gone. His principal object must be to discover the number of hackney coach which took them from Clapham. It had come with a fare from London. Okay, so basically if it came from a fare from London, I'm assuming you had to pay to use the hackney coach. And I would think that Wickham isn't the one that's going to be driving it, especially if it came with the fare. It's not his coach. So maybe he's trying to discover the number. Maybe the coaches are numbered. It's kind of like, I guess, maybe a taxi, like something like that, where if you know the number of the taxi, you could kind of trace it back and see who drove it, maybe. And if you know who drove it, maybe they might have information as to where he drove it, where he left them off with. So he's trying to be a little Detective Bennet over here to just see what's going on with that hackney coach, because it did come with the fare from London. And as he thought the circumstance of a gentleman and ladies removing from one carriage into another might be remarked, he meant to make inquiries at Clapham. So it seems also like he wants to go to Clapham to see where, obviously, if he could find the coach, but also if anybody else saw them get out from one carriage into another, into the hackney coach, because that's what it says here, that, the changing, the circumstance, removing from one carriage into another might be remarked. Maybe somebody might have remembered it. So he wanted to make inquiries. He wanted to talk to the townspeople of Clapham. Okay, all right, so he's got a plan thus far. Let's keep it going. And if he could anyhow discover at what house the coachman had before set down his fare to track down the coachman, he determined to make inquiries there, and hoped it might not be impossible to find out the stand and number of the coach. So it seems like he's going the coach route. He just wants to know, can we find out the number on the coach? Can we find out who drove it, the coachman, right? Where was the fare? Because then if you can get that information, who drove it, where they changed, you might get more information as to where they went. I do not know of any other details that he had formed, but he was in such a hurry to be gone, and his spirits so greatly discomposed, that I had difficulty in finding out even so much as this. So he was like up and left. I mean, this is completely not Mr. Bennet, but it gets you to this point, from years of neglect to this point, to act like this. I mean, come on. He must know that he messed up. And now he knows that he needs to put his whole life out there to find his daughter. I mean, this is crazy. So Jane Austen, of course, the next chapter, she ain't going to tell us where Lydia is. We just had a full conversation with the Gardners and Elizabeth, Jane and Elizabeth, Mrs. Bennet and Elizabeth. We got even Mary in there. Kitty, I don't think really talked much, because what is Kitty going to say? And, talking with Jane. So we're getting closer, guys. But as of right now, we still don't know where Lydia is, but she needs to come home, please. Okay, so guys, somehow this chapter was a huge chapter of just driving home and talking. And how am I even more stressed than I was before? Because at this present moment, we do not know where Lydia is yet. And we still don't even know what Wickham even intends to do. And Mr. Bennet's out there on those streets acting like a Regency detective, trying to track down a Hackney coach. But I think the real thing that got me in this chapter was basically how everybody was trying to look backwards. Elizabeth is realizing, I knew what Wickham was, and I never warned Lydia. And Jane is realizing, maybe we should have told people. And Kitty's realizing,
maybe knowing the secret wasn't actually, fun.
And Mr. Bennet, my dude, Elizabeth warned you. Come on. And that is where I think this chapter gets super, super serious. Because Lydia absolutely made a completely reckless choice. No doubt about that. But she's also like 15, 16, guys. And Austen keeps showing us the environment in which created this whole entire mess. Mrs. Bennet indulged her. And Mr. Bennet unfortunately ignored her. And nobody really taught her to take things seriously. And then everybody was absolutely shocked when the girl who was never, ever, ever taught restraint had none. And poof, decided that she wanted to marry Wickham. Now that is rough. And poor Jane is basically holding down Longbourn all by herself, while Mrs. Bennet is upstairs in her apartment over having crazy hysterics. Mary is extracting moral lessons from her sister's catastrophic decision. And the housekeeper has been drafted for emotional support, guys. I mean, come on. All right, so current standings. Lydia, you're thoughtless, you're reckless, but somehow you really thought that you were going to get married. Wickham, sir, where are you taking this child? And bring her back, please. Jane's holding this whole entire household together with kindness and sheer force of will. Mr. Bennet just turned into the Regency-era private detective who acted one Brighton trip too late. Mrs. Bennet is still somehow a victim of everyone except Mrs. Bennet. Elizabeth is realizing that hindsight is truly torturing her. And me? I'm sitting here watching every funny little flaw and finding out that suddenly everything has its consequences. All right, so you guys know the drill by now. Let's get some water in, whatever your drink of choice is. And when you are ready, I shall see you for chapter 48. Let's do this. Kiki?